Chapter 532. The short miner repairs cultivator listened to Lu Ping's explanation and became impatient. So he said, "Now that you understand, let's talk about how to divide this boulder. In my opinion, this ore is more than enough to refine 3 metal-attributed magic weapons. Moreover, it can be upgraded to a spiritual-attributed magic weapon in the future. Why don't the 3 of us divide this boulder equally?" The tall cultivator was disappointed when he saw that it was only a second-class mutated spirit grass. When he heard the short miner repairs cultivator's words, he shook his head and said, "I don't practice a metal-attributed cultivation method. This ore is useless to me." Lu Ping thought for a moment and said, "I have 2 juniors who practice a metal-attributed cultivation method. Now that they are about to advance to the core forging stage, they are about to refine their magic weapons. Since you don't want it, how about this boulder? Please appraise it. I will give you 2 high-grade spirit stones." The short miner repairs cultivator hesitated when he heard this. Lu Ping saw this and said, "I am an alchemist, and I have a lot of pills at the late core forging stage. If you don't want high-grade spirit stones, I am willing to exchange a few bottles of pills for it. What do you think?" The short miner repairs cultivator's eyes lit up and said, "You are also an alchemist? In that case, I will give this ore to you. However, I need some pills at the late core forging stage." Lu Ping smiled and said, "Naturally, no problem." Lu Ping walked around the ore and said, "The quality of this ore is good, and the amount is enough. I will give you 280 high-grade spirit stones each. How about it?" The short miner repairs cultivator quickly waved his hand and said, "Too little, too little. If this ore is refined into magic weapons, it is enough to refine 3 magic weapons. Moreover, its quality is enough to upgrade it to a spiritual attributed magic weapon in the future. I think we should at least give each of us 150 high-grade spirit stones." Lu Ping smiled and said, "How about this? You give me and this fellow Taoist 300 superior grade spirit stones, and we'll let you have this ore?" The short miner repairs sergeant was stunned for a moment, but he still waved his hand and said, "Anyway, it's still too little." Lu Ping glanced at the tall cultivator next to him and said, "If that's the case, then I'll give you 2 100 high-grade spirit stones each. If it's more than that, then I won't take the ore." The short miner repairs cultivator was a bit reluctant, but the tall and slender cultivator said, "That's fine too." The short miner repairs cultivator had no choice but to say, however, "I want to exchange my 100 high-grade spirit stones for pills that can be taken by late core forging cultivators." Lu Ping smiled and said, "That's not a problem." Lu Ping exchanged the pills and spirit stones with the 2, then walked to the side of the pit to collect the ores. "Wait!" The tall and slender cultivator suddenly shouted, causing Lu Ping's face to instantly sink. Lu Ping turned to look at the tall and slender cultivator and asked with a bad expression, "What's wrong? Could it be that you're regretting it?" The short miner repairs cultivator was about to leave, but he didn't expect the tall and slender cultivator to suddenly shout, so he stood to the side and watched the excitement. Seeing Lu Ping's bad expression, the tall and slender cultivator smiled and said, "I naturally won't regret it. But for the sake of peace of mind, I think it's better for you to divide this ore into 2 pieces. In any case, it won't affect the ore's ability to be refined into magic weapons. What do you think?" The short miner repairs cultivator instantly reacted and echoed, "That's right. If there is something else in this ore, wouldn't we suffer a loss? After all, you're the only one who knows about the Qian Gang golden liquid." After the 2 finished speaking, they each took a step towards Lu Ping's side. Obviously, if Lu Ping didn't do as the 2 said, then he would have a guilty conscience, and the 2 would immediately join forces to snatch the ore. Lu Ping looked angry. A golden light flashed in his hand, and the ore in the pit was neatly cut into 2 pieces from the middle. The smooth cross-section flashed with cold light. It was obviously just a piece of metal attribute variant spiritual material. The short miner repairs cultivator looked a little embarrassed. The tall and slender cultivator cupped his hands toward Lu Ping and said, "Please don't blame me. In such a dangerous place, you and I don't know each other. It's inevitable that we can't trust each other." Lu Ping snorted coldly. With a wave of his hand, he cut the ore into 2 halves and kept them in his interspatial ring. Then, a ball of watery light appeared beneath his feet, and he melted into the black mist that covered the sky. The tall and slender cultivator and the short cultivator glanced at each other, then left without saying a word. Only the half-meter-deep pit in the grassland at the center of the Blackwater swamp was left as proof of what had happened. In one breath, Lu Ping flew for a few hundred miles. Along the way, he changed directions a few times before he finally arrived at a deserted island with no signs of life. Lu Ping found a secluded place and opened a cave. He arranged a simple formation at the entrance of the cave and then sat cross-legged. He took out the boulder that he had just cut in two with the golden scale sword from the storage ring. Lu Ping took out a jade crystal bottle with a long mouth and a thin neck and put it aside. His eyes glowed with a bright green light as he carefully examined the two pieces of ore. Then, he took out a flying needle mystic instrument from his interspatial ring and stabbed it at a protrusion on the surface of one of the ore pieces. Puff! The flying needle magic weapon easily pierced a hole in the second-class metal attribute variant spiritual material. Then a stream of golden liquid suddenly flowed out of the small hole. Lu Ping patted the half-piece of ore, and it suddenly flew into the air. The hole was pierced downward, and the golden liquid suddenly emerged from the hole and flowed straight into the slender neck jade crystal bottle that had already been placed. When the last drop of golden liquid flowed out, the slender neck jade crystal bottle was filled. Lu Ping sealed the slender neck jade crystal bottle and carefully put it in the storage ring. He then took out another slender neck jade crystal bottle. Lu Ping examined the other half of the ore and found a bump. He repeated the process and obtained a whole bottle of golden liquid. After collecting this bottle of liquid, Lu Ping let out a sigh of relief and then threw the two halves of the ore on the ground into the storage ring. Lu Ping seemed to want to continue. He took out the two jade bottles filled with golden liquid and admired them. He then chuckled softly. The Heaven Gang golden liquid was a low-grade earth-grade metal attribute Fey, and it was so easily picked up by Lu Ping. Moreover, it was two portions. In fact, when Lu Ping saw the essence azure liquid, he guessed that there might be the Heaven Gang golden liquid below. Lu Ping had seen in the ancient books collected by Hu Lily that the essence azure liquid and the Heaven Gang golden liquid were born together, but he wasn't too sure. Therefore, Lu Ping returned to confirm whether there was still the Heaven Gang golden liquid underground. Unexpectedly, when the short miner repairs cultivator was retrieving the essence azure liquid, he had already noticed the abnormality underground, but he didn't make it public. He originally had the idea of taking it for himself, but he didn't expect that not only would Lu Ping return, but the slender cultivator would also return because of caution. Fortunately, these two people didn't seem to know much about the relationship between the essence azure liquid and the Heaven Gang golden liquid. After seeing the huge mutated ore underground and being persuaded by Lu Ping's lies, they finally gave this ore to Lu Ping. After Lu Ping saw the ore, he already knew that he had hit a treasure this time. The Heaven Gang golden liquid was most likely sealed in this ore. However, what made Lu Ping even more surprised was that when Lu Ping used the three pure true eyes to examine the Heaven Gang golden liquid inside the ore, he discovered that there wasn't one portion of the world Fey inside, but two portions. This made Lu Ping even more overjoyed. Fortunately, these two Feys weren't distributed in the center of the ore, but on both ends of the ore. This was also the reason why Lu Ping dared to cut this ore with a sword. After fiddling with the two portions of Qian Gang golden liquid in his hand for a long time, Lu Ping finally put them away. He then opened a jade bottle that contained the portion of Yuan Qing liquid he obtained earlier. Lu Ping blew on it, and a drop of essence azure liquid floated out of the jade bottle. When this drop of essence azure liquid floated to the center of Lu Ping's eyebrows, Lu Ping's eyes suddenly burst out with two azure lights. Under the two azure lights, the drop of essence azure liquid suddenly split into two, and then each fell into Lu Ping's eyes. After a burst of coolness, there was a burst of tingling. Lu Ping hurriedly practiced this secret technique. After about half an incense's time, Lu Ping's closed eyes suddenly opened. There were 4 azure halos on the edge of the black gem-like eyes, and at this time, outside the 4 azure halos, there was a faint halo that seemed to be about to appear. Lu Ping put away the jade bottle containing the essence azure liquid. If he wanted to completely refine the 5th spiritual liquid and improve the power of the 3 pure true eyes to another level, It couldn't be done in one go. At this time, Lu Ping was quite deep in the fallen archipelago. Lu Ping could often see some medium-sized islands in the soil where he flew. Whenever he encountered such an island, Lu Ping quickly patrolled the island where the most suitable area for the growth of spirit grass was, and then collected all the growing spirit grass and left for the next island. In fact, the area of a medium-sized island was already quite vast, and the growth of spirit grass could be regarded as quite scattered. But at this time, Lu Ping obviously didn't think that searching for a few spirit grass in those corners would be very efficient. Instead, after collecting the most easily found spirit grass, he would go to the next island. This way, he could find the most spirit grass in the shortest time. Boom! Clang clang! A sudden explosion of roars and violent yuan qi fluctuations a few miles away interrupted Lu Ping, who was collecting a 3,000 years old spirit grass. Lu Ping furrowed his brows, wondering who would be so unwise to fight in such a dangerous place. Not to mention the intense consumption of true essence. Just the poisonous mist alone was enough to tell how many dangers were lurking in it. Weren't they afraid that they would end up as a jade clam in the eyes of others? However, such a scene could also explain that if the two sides did not have a deep hatred, they must have encountered some kind of treasure that was difficult to give up. If so, how could Lu Ping not go and have a look? Chapter 533. At this time, Lu Ping's position was quite deep in the fallen archipelago. When Lu Ping rushed towards the direction of the battle, he vaguely found several escape lights sneaking towards the direction of the battle in the poisonous fog. It's actually these people. Lu Ping hid in the poisonous fog 2 miles away from the battle. Using the 3 pure true pupils, he tried his best to flash circle after circle of cyan light, watching the battle 2 miles away. In the past few days, Lu Ping smelted a drop of yuan qing liquid into his eyes every day, so that the power of Lu Ping's 3 pure true pupils had increased. In this gray poisonous fog, he could clearly see the two sides fighting 2 miles away. It seemed that the two sides didn't deliberately hide their tracks, and they didn't pay attention to the surrounding cultivators who were spying on them. Lu Runjian, what do you think of my proposal just now? If you can hand over the still liquid saliva in your hand to me, I won't let you suffer a loss. Still liquid saliva? Lu Ping was shocked. This was a water attribute spiritual object of the upper rank of the earth rank. The Lu family actually found such a treasure in the fallen archipelago. Sure enough, as soon as the name still liquid saliva came out, the surrounding cultivators moved, and several faint killing intents came out from the surroundings. However, Lu Ping didn't intend to touch this treasure. It was not that Lu Ping didn't want it, but Lu Ping knew the two sides of the battle quite well. Since they dared to fight openly in such a dangerous place like the fallen archipelago, how could they not have some backup plans? Lu Runjian, what's your decision? Didn't you notice that the surrounding cultivators swallowed their saliva when they heard the still liquid saliva? Humph, Yuan Feixiang, this still liquid saliva was first discovered by our Lu family, and there are disciples in our Lu family who need this kind of spiritual object. Are you relying on the power of your Yuan family to force us to sell it? The one who spoke was not Lu Runjian, but Liao Ruanjia, who had a deal with Lu Ping. Who is this? Are you also a cultivator from the Lu clan? But I don't recognize you. How should I address you? Although my Yuan clan is rather influential, your Lu clan is also a prestigious clan in the Middle Earth. How can you say that you are using your power to bully others? I merely fancy the spiritual item in your hands and wish to make a fair trade with you. Sure enough, as soon as the names of the Yuan family and the Lu family were revealed, the practitioners hiding in the dark all restrained their killing intents. There was no need to mention the status of the Yuan family in the central region. Although the Lu family was not as good as the Yuan family, it was also a famous alchemy family in the central region and had a wide circle of friends in the cultivation circle of the central region. Even the Crystal Palace did not want to offend these two families. Of course, there were outlaws everywhere. The names of the Yuan clan and the Lu clan were not necessarily able to scare off the cultivators hiding in the surroundings. In such a dangerous place, if one were to kill someone and run away, who would know who the murderer was? No matter how powerful the Yuan clan and the Lu clan were, what could they do? Could they overturn the entire cultivation world? Fair trade? Fair trade depends on whether the Lu clan is willing or not. We are not willing to trade this spiritual item with young Master Yuan, but young Master is pestering us like this. Is this also a fair trade? It was still Liao Ruinjia who spoke. The other cultivator who teamed up with Liao Ruinjia to fight against Yuan Feixiang was the middle-aged cultivator that Lu Ping met at the treasure house. He should be the Lu Runjian that Yuan Feixiang mentioned. However, this person was busy suppressing Yuan Feixiang and remained silent about Yuan Feixiang's questions. In fact, the current scene was incomprehensible in the eyes of ordinary people. Liao Ruinjia was a core forging stage cultivator, while Lu Runjian was a core forging stage cultivator at the core forging stage. It seemed that she had just advanced to the late core forging stage. The other cultivator who was helping Yuan Feixiang was impressively Shangguan Hao, who Lu Ping was eager to kill. Shangguan Hao is only a core forging stage cultivator at the core forging stage, and his strength was the weakest among the four. Most of the attacks that he used to help Yuan Feixiang were easily resolved by Lu Runjian and Liao Ruinjia. Lu Runjian and Liao Ruinjia teamed up to fight against Yuan Feixiang. In fact, Lu Runjian and Liao Ruinjia had already gained the upper hand. However, although Shangguan Hao is insignificant, Yuan Feixiang was able to block the attacks of the two cultivators with her own cultivation and defend with ease. Lu Ping stared at Yuan Feixiang. Although neither Yuan Feixiang nor Lu Runjian and Liao Ruinjia used their full strength, Yuan Feixiang was able to easily resist the joint attack of the two. At the very least, Lu Ping could not do this. Of course, at this time, Lu Ping was only at the core forging stage. If Lu Ping advanced to the late core forging stage, he might have the strength to fight against Yuan Feixiang. Although Lu Runjian and Liao Ruinjia had the upper hand, Yuan Feixiang did not seem to care at all. Instead, her words were aggressive. Although Lu Runjian and Liao Ruinjia had the upper hand, Liao Ruinjia and Yuan Feixiang were somewhat helpless in the dialogue. I don't have any bad intentions, and the spirit stones I gave are far more than the value of the still liquid saliva, but Brother Lu has been indifferent. I have repeatedly asked for it, but I hope that Brother Lu can see that I really want this spiritual object. Yuan Feixiang was still talking with confidence and composure, neither fast nor slow. I have already told you that the still liquid saliva is also urgently needed by a disciple of my Lu family. If you continue like this, aren't you afraid of causing a dispute between the two families? As Liao Ruinjia spoke, a red fireball suddenly exploded beside Yuan Feixiang. Yuan Feixiang's expression changed, and she reached out to her side. A large net of interwoven lightning wrapped around the exploded fireball, and then both of them were annihilated in midair. Liao Ruinjia saw that Yuan Feixiang was able to so casually block his attack, and his face was quite gloomy. This Yuan clan's thunder attribute cultivation method is really overbearing. This Yuan Feixiang's cultivation is obviously lower than mine, but her strength is tyrannical and terrifying. This time, if not for Brother Runjian's cooperation to suppress her, I fear that I would not be her opponent. This is quite similar to Zhenling's Water Sword Immortal. I just don't know what the scene will be when these two meet, but the current Water Sword Immortal is probably not this person's opponent. After all, her cultivation is only at the 5th stage of core forging. Lu Runjian saw that Yuan Feixiang was able to easily block Liao Ruinjia's attack, and the corner of his eyes unconsciously twitched. The Liao clan originated from the Lu clan, so Lu Runjian naturally knew about Liao Ruinjia's fireball divine ability. The seemingly ordinary fireball was actually a great divine ability that Liao Ruinjia painstakingly cultivated. This Yuan Feixiang was worthy of being an outstanding existence among this generation of disciples of the Yuan clan, to be able to so easily neutralize this great divine ability. Yuan Feixiang's face was already gloomy after receiving Liao Ruinjia's great divine ability, and he said, "Brother Lu, in this battle, both of us more or less left some leeway in order to not alarm the elders of both sides. This Lu clan cultivator, could it be that he wants to stir up trouble?" At this time, Lu Runjian had no choice but to speak. If young noble Yuan wants this still liquid saliva, it is not impossible. Liao Ruinjia's face was startled, and he said, "Brother Runjian, this is..." Lu Runjian waved his hand to interrupt Liao Ruinjia's words, and said, "It's just the previous spirit stones. My Lu clan is not short of those spirit stones. If young noble Yuan wants to exchange for this still liquid saliva, Then please take out a spirit item of the same grade. As for what kind of spirit item, I will not make any requirements, but the grade must be at the upper grade of the earth grade. Otherwise, young noble Yuan can call your elder Laozu over. My Lu clan is not necessarily afraid of your Yuan clan. Hearing Lu Runjian's words, Liao Ruinjia calmed down. Yuan Feixiang glanced at Shang Wanhao next to him, but he was a little serious. Although Shang Wanhao looked a little unwilling, he still whispered, "Young noble, forget it. I will look for a suitable spirit item later." Yuan Feixiang glanced at Shang Wanhao and suddenly said with a smile, "Shang Wan, your family has made great contributions, and you have done your best for me for many years. Since I said that I will find you an upper grade of earth grade spiritual item, I will not go back on my words. You can rest assured." Shang Wanhao looked very grateful and he said, "Thank you for your kindness, but..." Yuan Feixiang interrupted Shang Wanhao's refusal, turned to Lu Runjian, and said, "Brother Lu, an upper grade spiritual item of earth grade is hard to come by. Although I don't take it seriously, I don't have a spirit item of the same grade with me at the moment. How about this? If Brother Lu trusts me, you can give this still liquid saliva to me first. In the future, when I return to the Middle Mainland, I will personally present an upper grade spiritual item of earth grade to the Lu clan. What do you think, Brother Lu?" Liao Ruinjia snorted coldly and said, "You have a good plan." Lu Runjian pondered for a moment, then looked up and said, "I don't trust you." Yuan Feixiang's face suddenly changed, and a stream of hot blood suddenly surged up, and his face turned red. However, Lu Runjian then said seriously, "However, I do trust the Yuan clan. I can give you this still liquid saliva first, and I believe that the reputation of the Yuan family in the Middle Mainland for tens of thousands of years will not be destroyed in your hands." Yuan Feixiang looked a little relaxed, and he grabbed a jade bottle handed over by Lu Runjian in his hand, and then he said coldly, "Thank you, Brother Lu. In the future, I will personally return a spiritual item of the same grade to the Lu clan." Lu Runjian glanced around and said, "In this case, see you later. I think Laozu of the Yuan family must be waiting anxiously in the central islands of the fallen archipelago. Young Master Yuan should go to meet them quickly, and we will leave first." Yuan Feixiang glanced disdainfully at the cultivators hiding in the dark, and then he handed the jade bottle in his hand to Shang Wanhao, saying, "You keep it first, and we will go to meet Laozu first." Shang Wanhao respectfully took the jade bottle with both hands, and was about to put it in his storage device, when he heard Yuan Feixiang's cold shout, "How dare you!" Clang! A sound of gold and iron colliding came, and a golden sword light was quickly submerged in the gray poisonous fog. Chapter 534. Yuan Feixiang didn't expect that someone would really dare to attack him, and this sword light came very abruptly. After the attack mist, it quickly retreated into the gray poisonous mist, so Yuan Feixiang couldn't lock the position of the attacker for a while. This golden sword light seemed to have aroused the greed of the cultivators who were peeping around. After the golden light, there were several magic treasures mixed with several spiritual techniques that attacked Yuan Feixiang and Yuan Feixiang. When the golden sword light appeared, Shang Wanhao was shocked. Then he quickly put the still liquid saliva into the storage artifact, and then he threw out a green flying sword to help Yuan Feixiang resist the magic treasures and spiritual techniques that were flying around. However, Shang Wanhao soon found that most of these attacks were directed at him, and Yuan Feixiang was blocking the attacks for him. Shang Wanhao is also a quick-witted person, so he immediately guessed that these people were actually coming for the earth rank upper grade spiritual item in his hand. However, when the first golden sword light attacked, it was not directed at Shang Wanhao, but it directly slashed at Yuan Feixiang. After the attack missed, it never appeared again. Yuan Feixiang was born in the top family in the central region, so her family's knowledge was naturally profound. She had dabbled in many cultivation techniques, spiritual techniques, and spiritual techniques in the cultivation world, so she was quite knowledgeable. However, these attacks from the surrounding poisonous mist were messy and seemed to be clueless. Although the true essence contained in each attack was very strong, the power was very little. Yuan Feixiang was quite puzzled at first, but she soon understood that although the surrounding cultivators were greedy, they were afraid of the prestige of the top family in the central region. So they all hid their true magical powers to avoid being seen through by Yuan Feixiang, and the Yuan family would seek revenge in the future. Therefore, all these attacks seemed to be specious, and Yuan Feixiang could temporarily stabilize his position under the siege of many cultivators with his strong strength. However, there was more than one cultivator hiding around. Even though all of them had concealed their sex and cultivation bases, Yuan Feixiang was unable to avoid falling into a disadvantageous position after a long time. In the end, he died under the siege of so many cultivators without even knowing how he died. That's right. However, how could Yuan Feixiang be helpless in such a situation? He suddenly threw out a shield flashing with lightning. The shield had just flown above Yuan Feixiang's head, and it was blown into pieces under the siege of many attacks. Just when everyone was wondering why the lightning shield was so useless, they saw that the exploded lightning shield suddenly formed a huge lightning shield around Yuan Feixiang. The lightning shield covered Yuan Feixiang and Shangguan Hao. The surrounding attacks hit the lightning shield, but they were dissolved by the flashing lightning. Moreover, when the lightning hit the magic weapon, it made it difficult for the cultivator to control the magic weapon. Fortunately, at this time, everyone was besieging Yuan Feixiang, so he had no time to care about it. If it was a one-on-one battle, the moment he lost control of the magic weapon, it would be the moment when Yuan Feixiang counterattacked. Practitioner weapon. How can the descendant of the Yuan family not have a practitioner weapon? This is hard to say. Let's break his practitioner weapon first. I'm afraid. Yuan Feixiang listened to all kinds of strange tones around him. He knew that everyone had coincidentally concealed their true tones. He could not help but sneer, and there was a wooden sword engraved with all kinds of runes in his hand. Another practitioner weapon. Oh no, this is a practitioner weapon flying sword. The Yuan family is really rich and overbearing. Amidst the exclamations of the crowd of cultivators, the talisman weapon flying sword quickly disintegrated as Yuan Feixiang shouted, "Gee!" Countless sword lights scattered from the disintegrated talisman weapon. The cultivators hiding in all directions were in a flurry, shouting and cursing in all directions. Yuan Feixiang sneered and whispered to Shangguan Hao beside him, "Let's go." Shangguan Hao did not dare to neglect and quickly flew out behind Yuan Feixiang. Although Yuan Feixiang's practitioner weapon flying sword brought a lot of trouble to the surrounding cultivators, there were still a few cultivators who escaped the attack of the practitioner weapon. Seeing that Yuan Feixiang and Shangguan Hao were about to escape, they all tried to stop them. For a time, although Yuan Feixiang tried his best to resist, there were still many attacks that hit the lightning shield of Yuan Feixiang and Shangguan Hao. Yuan Feixiang's face was livid. He reached out his hand and took out another item from his storage device. The surrounding cultivators thought that he was going to use a practitioner weapon again, and the whole attack suddenly stagnated. They all secretly scolded this person for being a prodigal, but they were more and more afraid of the Yuan family. However, what Yuan Feixiang was holding was only a sound-transmitting sword. Not good. Stop him. Many cultivators had realized something and shouted to stop him, but it was too late. The sound-transmitting sword passed through Yuan Feixiang's sneer, and the gray poisonous fog disappeared. At this moment, Yuan Feixiang and Shangguan Hao had already relied on the defense of the lightning shield to resist the attacks of the crowd, and they were about to break out of the encirclement. Humph! As long as we break out of the encirclement, Lao Zhu of the family will be able to come from the inside of the fallen archipelago in a moment. At that time, we will definitely kill these overseas cultivators who have offended the dignity of the Yuan family. When has the dignity of the Yuan family ever been so provoked? However, just as Yuan Feixiang and Shangguan Hao were about to break out of the encirclement, the lightning shield that enveloped them suddenly shook, and the shield that was made up of hundreds of lightning bolts suddenly collapsed. Hundreds of lightning bolts rushed in all directions, and the lightning shield also completely dissipated. As Yuan Feixiang and Lu Ta were making use of the cover provided by the lightning bolts to break through the entanglement of the last cultivator, the golden sword light that had not appeared since the cultivators besieged Yuan Feixiang and Lu Ta broke through the layers of mist once more to appear in the direction where the two cultivators were breaking out from. Yuan Feixiang's expression was gloomy, and his heart was filled with hatred. Just now, he had been besieged by many people, And although he had relied on 2 practitioner weapons to survive, it had also consumed a lot of his chi. This swordlight, when Yuan Feixiang was at his peak, naturally would not have taken it seriously, but at this moment, he had to pay attention to it. A crackling sound rang out, and a purple copper drum appeared in Yuan Feixiang's hand. The golden flying sword, on the other hand, emitted sparks from time to time as it flew back unsteadily. Although this golden sword light returned without success, it had successfully delayed Yuan Feixiang's footsteps to break out of the encirclement. The cultivators who were previously blocked by Yuan Feixiang's practitioner weapon saw the opportunity, and like a school of bloody sharks, they once again surrounded them. Yuan Feixiang roared angrily. He hated the 2 golden sword lights that appeared at the right time. This was obviously a premeditated plot against him. Under the joint attack of the cultivators, even though Yuan Feixiang was a genius, it was difficult for him to fight against so many hands, and he was beaten until he vomited blood. Shang Guanhao on the side. Although Yuan Feixiang tried his best to protect him, at this moment, Yuan Feixiang could not even protect himself, and Shang Guanhao was already seriously injured. You all deserve to die. Yuan Feixiang's face was ferocious, and a misty talisman was suddenly torn apart in Yuan Feixiang's hand. The scattered pieces of the captives floated in midair, but they formed a golden door. The door shone brightly, and a huge force suddenly came through. The whole door made a loud noise, as if it was about to be broken from the inside. Who is it? Who dares to attack the cultivators of the Yuan family? A majestic shout came from behind the door that was about to be broken. Not good. It's a teleportation talisman. The Dharma adept of the Yuan family is about to arrive. In a dangerous place like the Fallen Archipelago, Dharma Laozu rarely used space magic to travel freely. This was also why Yuan Feixiang had previously used a telepathic sword to inform the family's Dharma Laozu to come and help. And this teleportation talisman was something that only the most outstanding disciples of the Yuan family could have, and it was meant to be used at the last moment to save their lives. The teleportation talisman was originally Yuan Feixiang's trump card, and he would never use it unless he had no other choice. This was because this would undoubtedly lower his status in the eyes of the family's Laozu. But now, Yuan Feixiang was really at a critical moment of life and death, and he had no choice but to use it. We must kill him before the Dharma adept arrives, or else no one will be able to benefit from it. An outstanding disciple of the Yuan family, not to mention that high-grade earth-level, still liquid saliva. Just how much wealth does he have in his magical storage device? The Yuan family is not only the most powerful family in the Central Plains, but also the most luxurious family in the Central Plains. He must have some good stuff on him. Cut the crap, kill him first. Dong. There was another muffled sound, and the door formed by the torn talisman shook again, and the empty space within the door continued to ripple like water. At this time, Yuan Feixiang was facing the attacks of the crowd. Although his face was getting paler and paler, his expression was still calm. After Yuan Feixiang used the Thunder Light Bronze Drum to repel the obstruction of the Golden Sword Light, he did not take back his life-bonded magic treasure. Yuan Feixiang raised both his hands, and the thunder drum instantly grew to the height of half a person, and a pair of purple electric hammers appeared in his hands. Yuan Feixiang waved both his hands violently, and a thunderous sound exploded beside him. The 2 treasures that were flying from afar suddenly seemed to be drunk, and they lost control of the sky, and their power was greatly reduced. Although the power of Yuan Feixiang's purple drum was tyrannical, and each blow could repel or annihilate the attacking magic treasures and magical powers, but every time Yuan Feixiang swung the pair of hammers, it seemed to fly away, and it consumed a lot of true essence magic power. His treasure seemed to be the same as Lu Ping's Genshin array. Although it was powerful, the consumption of true essence was a great burden for cultivators. Fortunately, after Lu Ping was lucky enough to smelt the Xinyuan heavy water, this problem had been preliminarily solved. Although Yuan Feixiang's cultivation was deep and outstanding among the cultivators of the same level, he had not smelted a spiritual object like the Xinyuan heavy water that could increase the density of a cultivator's true essence. The grade of the purple drum was also far higher than Lu Ping's Genshin Pearl and the 9th grade White Jade Lotus array. In addition, Yuan Feixiang was also at the end of his flight, so it was even more difficult for him to hold on. Yuan Feixiang's twin hammers, one in front and one at the back, produced a peculiar drumbeat. A clump of lightning suddenly burst out from the bronze drum, spreading outwards from the inside to the outside to force the attacks of the surrounding cultivators to a halt. Yuan Feixiang's pale face turned livid and he coughed out a mouthful of blood onto the surface of the bronze drum, causing a peculiar layer of red to appear on the purple-colored bronze drum. Lao Zhu of the Yuan clan, who was in the portal formed by the talisman paper scraps, seemed to have felt the crisis of Yuan Feixiang. The previous loud banging sound of the portal stopped, followed by a more ferocious explosion of thunder than before. The void in the portal suddenly shattered, and a fist and half of an arm flashing with lightning suddenly appeared from the shattered void. Then it retracted. A cold snort came, and an insufferably arrogant pressure with soaring anger and murderous intent suddenly appeared above the besieging Yuan Feixiang. The whole sky seemed to become silent because of this cold snort. From time to time, one or two rays of light flashed in the gray poisonous fog. There were already cultivators who saw that the situation was not good and finally gave up the treasures that were at their fingertips. However, there were still some people who were driven by greed and intended to take a risk. At this time, Yuan Feixiang had also reached the point of exhaustion. On the side, Shang Guanhao simply curled up beside the bronze drum, already dispirited and listless. Crack! There was another loud sound as the lightning fist once again smashed the door in the air. Behind the door, which was pitch black and seemed to be swallowing everything in its path, there seemed to be the faint sound of a Dharma adept panting. A sword light soared into the sky, evolving into various sword styles in the sky, and then each sword style seemed to form a kind of wind. There was a gale, a hurricane, a breeze, a cool breeze, a cold wind, a storm. All kinds of wind swords gathered together to form a huge tornado. A golden tornado brought by the psychic sword light, along with the magical spells cast by the remaining cultivators who tried to take a risk, went toward Yuan Feixiang. At this moment, Yuan Feixiang seemed to have some strength left, but she was determined to not be able to take these attacks. However, there was no despair in Yuan Feixiang's eyes at this time. Chapter 535. Yuan Feixiang knew very well that his natal magic weapon did not hit the golden flying sword, but the flying sword took the initiative to retreat when his bronze drum exploded with thunder and lightning. However, immediately afterward, Shang Guanhao was deliberately killed. All of this seemed to be deliberately arranged. The golden flying sword attracted his attention, but the blue flying sword took the opportunity to kill Shang Guanhao. Yuan Feixiang suddenly realized that the golden flying sword might have been aiming at Shang Guanhao from the beginning, and it was just confusing him before. Why did they kill Shang Guanhao? Am I, the proud son of the Yuan family, inferior to a destitute cultivator whose family is ruined and can only be my attendant? Or is there some secret hidden in Shang Guanhao that made people want to kill him at the risk of offending the Yuan family? Yuan Feixiang was a genius cultivator of the Yuan family, so his wisdom and talent were naturally extremely high. He just thought of so many things the moment he saw Shang Guanhao being killed. However, at this time, his crisis had not been resolved. Just when Yuan Feixiang was forced into a corner by the attack of the crowd just now and could only choose his most resentful golden sword light to counterattack, the attacks of the others had already fallen on Yuan Feixiang at this time. How dare you! The void that had been smashed by the thunder light fist was broken. With this roar, a cloud of golden thunder light filled the entire portal. With a cracking sound, a shocking roar came. A big bird flashing golden thunder light between illusion and reality smashed the void full of cracks. The broken space fragments were flapped by the wings of the big bird, and they all flew behind Yuan Feixiang. Dharma? Thunder Rock Dharma. The surrounding cultivators who were hiding within the gray-colored poisonous fog cried out in shock. They hastily retrieved their magic treasures and turned to flee. However, there were still a few magic treasures that were damaged by the spatial fragments. Fortunately, the damage to the magic treasures only affected the cultivators themselves. However, the spatial fragments completely destroyed the magic treasures. Those who happened to encounter their life-bound magic treasures were seriously wounded as well. A middle-aged cultivator in his 40s lowered his head and walked out from the pitch-black portal in midair. The portal behind him shook for a moment before returning to its original state. As for the portal formed by the torn talismans, it was completely incinerated into ashes. The 3-meter-long lightning bird circled in the air and let out a long cry before disappearing above the middle-aged cultivator's head. The middle-aged cultivator sneered as he looked at the escaping light shrouded by the poisonous mist. Escape? Now, all of you must pay the price for offending the dignity of my Yuan clan. A late core forging cultivator was injured due to the destruction of his magic treasure, so he was slightly slower in escaping. The middle-aged cultivator pointed at the top of the cultivator's head and softly shouted, "Descend!" A golden lightning silently descended. The late core forging cultivator didn't even have time to scream before he turned into a mass of flying ash. The middle-aged cultivator stretched out his hand and shot out 2 more balls of lightning. Another 2 screams came from the poisonous fog. With a wave of his hand, 3 late core forging cultivators fell, causing the surrounding cultivators to become even more terrified. They desperately fled into the depths of the poisonous fog. Uncle Feng. After the middle-aged cultivator appeared, Yuan Feixiang's expression became calm. Although he was seriously injured due to the consumption of his true essence, Yuan Feixiang's face looked extremely pale. Yuan Feixiang took the storage magic tool from Shang Guanhao's body. Inside it was the high-grade earth-level, still liquid saliva. Originally, Yuan Feixiang exchanged this spiritual item for Shang Guanhao. Now that Shang Guanhao was dead, the transaction between Yuan Feixiang and the Lu family had lost its meaning. However, the cultivator who killed Shang Guanhao didn't fight for his storage magic tool. This was also the reason why Yuan Feixiang was more and more certain that the golden sword light and the blue sword shadow were definitely aimed at Shang Guanhao. Unlike the other cultivators, they came for the treasures on the 2 of them. The middle-aged cultivator didn't answer. Instead, he waved his hand and summoned 2 lightning bolts from the air, striking towards the 2 cultivators who fled in the distance. This time, because the distance was too far, the poisonous mist weakened the power of the middle-aged cultivator's spell. In addition, the 2 fleeing late core forging cultivators were not weak. Although they were seriously injured by the 2 lightning bolts, they didn't die. Seeing that everyone had fled, the middle-aged cultivator originally wanted to catch up and kill a few more people to calm the anger in his heart. However, seeing that Yuan Feixiang was seriously injured, if he left and someone attacked him again, Yuan Feixiang would undoubtedly die. So the middle-aged cultivator snorted, turned around, looked at Yuan Feixiang and said, "How can you be so unwise, putting yourself in such a dangerous situation?" In the central area, the competition between the various overseas sects has become white-hot. This is a critical moment, but you first used a sound transmission sword, and then simply used a teleportation talisman. If the family's harvest is greatly reduced because of you, after returning to the Central Plains, aren't you afraid that someone in the family will take the opportunity to suppress you? A cold light flashed in Yuan Feixiang's eyes. She recounted the previous events and respectfully said, "Thank you for the reminder, Uncle Feng." This time, this nephew was reckless. The overseas cultivation world is not comparable to the Central Plains, but in the future, Feixiang will certainly spread the prestige of my Yuan family to the overseas cultivation world. The middle-aged cultivator nodded with an expressionless face and asked, "Do you have any clues about the cultivator who killed your companion?" Yuan Feixiang shook her head and said, "The intruder is very cunning. One of them attacked from the front, while the other attacked from the back. Furthermore, this nephew was busy with other people, so I couldn't find any clues. However, the golden flying sword user's sword technique isn't weak. He attacked 3 times in a row, and each time, he used a different sword technique. Clearly, he was trying to hide his sword technique on purpose. However, the power of each sword technique wasn't any weaker than a minor divine ability. Furthermore, both of them seemed to have some kind of treasure that could hide them from divine sense. This nephew couldn't find the exact location of their hiding spot in the poisonous fog. That's because of your companion. The Shangguan clan was ordered by the family to lurk in the Eastern Sea and monitor the overseas cultivation world. They were a chess piece of the family's overseas plan. However, they didn't expect that the Shangguan clan would offend the green sea snake and be annihilated. The Shangguan clan's 1,000 years of inheritance was destroyed in a day. Perhaps, apart from the green sea snake, the Shangguan clan might have offended some other powers. When Yuan Feixiang heard about the green sea snake, a thoughtful look appeared on her face. The middle-aged cultivator noticed this and asked, "Did you think of something?" Shangguan Hao once told me that he once provoked an alchemist in the Northern Alliance. At that time, the alchemist's cultivation was lower than his, but he suffered a great loss at the hands of the alchemist. Ever since then, he has been holding a grudge against the alchemist, even holding a deep grudge against him. The middle-aged cultivator nodded and said, "Most alchemists are weak compared to other cultivators at the same level, but there are exceptions. Besides, alchemists have many strange skills, and they are a special group in the cultivation world that's difficult to offend. It's not a big deal to suffer a loss at the hands of an alchemist. Just like in the Fallen Archipelago, alchemists are like fish in water, so it's unwise to offend an alchemist." Do you suspect that the person who killed Shangguan Hao is that alchemist, or was ordered by that alchemist? But do you know why he became enemies with that alchemist? Yuan Feixiang shook her head and said, "This nephew doesn't know. Shangguan Hao has always been secretive about this. I even suspect that the reason why the Shangguan clan was annihilated by the green sea snake might have something to do with that alchemist." The middle-aged cultivator replied with an "oh" and said, "When the green sea snake annihilated the Shangguan clan, it claimed that the Shangguan clan had captured and raised the green sea snake, but Shangguan Hao has always denied this. If it's really like what you've guessed, could it be that the alchemist captured the green sea snake and framed the Shangguan clan?" Lu Ping didn't know that his identity was almost guessed by Yuan Feixiang and the middle-aged Dharma adept. It was only because the Shangguan clan was a chess piece that the green sea snake had been placed overseas by the Yuan clan, and because Shangguan Hao had attacked Lu Ping and exposed the identity of the Samling who had yet to transform, he had provoked the green sea snake and was annihilated. Shangguan Hao didn't dare to take the responsibility for the annihilation of his clan, so he had never reported this matter to the Yuan clan. Otherwise, with the green sea snake in Lu Ping's hands, and with the powerful strength of the Yuan clan, who knew how much trouble they would make. In fact, Lu Ping didn't have the time to think about these things, because Lu Ping was in extreme danger. Lu Ping, who was seriously injured, wasn't any better than Yuan Feixiang. Although Lu Ping had already overestimated Yuan Feixiang's strength, after fighting with Yuan Feixiang, Lu Ping realized that Yuan Feixiang's true strength was still above his estimation. Lu Ping made 4 sword moves in succession. The first move aroused everyone's greed, and they all attacked Yuan Feixiang. However, Lu Ping himself was almost shaken out of control by Yuan Feixiang's golden scale sword. The second move forced Yuan Feixiang, who was about to break out of the encirclement, back into the encirclement of the cultivators. If Yuan Feixiang hadn't taken the risk to activate the teleportation talisman in such a dangerous place as the Fallen Archipelago, only death awaited him. However, although Lu Ping's sword move was hurriedly repelled by Yuan Feixiang, Lu Ping was still almost injured by the counterattack of his thunder and lightning. The third move was a feint attack by Lu Ping to cover the fourth move, which killed Shangguan Hao. Just when Lu Ping killed Shangguan Hao, the middle-aged cultivator had already broken the void from the portal formed by the teleportation talisman and appeared on the battlefield. Lu Ping turned around and fled without saying a word. However, just as Lu Ping turned around and fled, a purple thunder light chased after the feint attack of the golden scale sword. This thunder light was the thunder and lightning magical power Yuan Feixiang used with all her strength to attack the golden scale sword when she was in a desperate situation. Although Yuan Feixiang couldn't completely lock on Lu Ping's figure hidden in the poisonous fog, this thunder light had a strange magical power. It actually followed the golden scale sword's trajectory in the poisonous fog and caught up with Lu Ping, who was about to escape. In desperation, Lu Ping had to use all his strength to block the thunder and lightning magical power of Yuan Feixiang. Chapter 536. The 6 layers of Gangqi on Lu Ping's body were like a blooming 6-colored lotus, and Lu Ping himself was standing in the center of the lotus. A broken water-controlling flag slowly rose from Lu Ping's head, like a wounded butterfly dancing around the lotus. A blue light curtain of running water poured down from the water-controlling flag, and palm-sized white jade lotus flowers floated in the running water. Lu Ping didn't want to use the golden scale sword to weaken Yuan Feixiang's lightning attack first. Lu Ping had already sensed that Yuan Feixiang's lightning attack was not only powerful, but also able to erase the user's divine sense and destroy the mystic treasure's spirituality. The golden scale sword had continuously withstood Yuan's divine lightning twice, and Lu Ping had already noticed that although the sword itself was protected by Lu Ping's zhenqi, it was still inevitably damaged. Afterward, Lu Ping would probably need to nourish it in the core space for a period of time before it could recover. With a loud crackling sound, the lightning caused the blue light curtain to be suffused with a brilliant purple light. The white jade lotuses floating on the light curtain were destroyed one by one. However, with the endless supply of true essence from Lu Ping, the white jade lotuses stubbornly regenerated on the light curtain. However, no matter how hard they tried, they couldn't keep up with the speed of being destroyed by the purple lightning. Lu Ping's face darkened slightly, and the blooming lotus gangqi suddenly expanded outward, driving away the purple lightning flowing on the blue water curtain, turning it into nothingness in the poisonous mist, and Lu Ping's body could not help but tremble. At this moment, a golden spot suddenly broke through the gray mist, and it was precisely at the moment when Lu Ping's control of his body was at its lowest due to the lightning strike. Someone actually came to take advantage of Lu Ping at this time. Lu Ping's face changed slightly, and a white jade lotus the size of a bowl suddenly came out of his chest. When the light flowed over the white jade petals, dense runes appeared on them, and Lu Ping's body immediately stopped trembling. Lu Ping suddenly gave a low shout, and the white jade lotus gang suddenly shrank, merging with the light curtain pouring down from the water-controlling flag. With a cracking sound, Lu Ping's divine lightning was full of cracks. The water-controlling flag fluttered and stretched rapidly above Lu Ping's head, but the golden spot still shattered the double defense of Lu Ping's divine lightning and defensive magic treasure. Lu Ping shouted, and the golden scale sword, which was already ready to strike, turned into a golden curtain of light. A total of 1,296 sword lights almost gathered together and slashed at the golden curtain of light. A golden light flashed, and the body was revealed, which was actually a fist-sized golden pill. A spirit-nurturing magic treasure. This was a late core forging master who had just participated in the siege of Yuan Feixiang. When the middle-aged Dharma adept of the Yuan family arrived, he knew that there was no hope of killing Yuan Feixiang, so he immediately retreated. Unexpectedly, he met Lu Ping halfway through, who was entangled by the mysterious magic of the Yuan family. However, what surprised him even more was that when Lu Ping blocked the attack of Yuan Feixiang, the stone armor could no longer conceal the depth of Lu Ping's cultivation. This seemingly very young cultivator was actually a mid-core forging adept. This person had a lot of guts, and he dared to participate in a battle between late-core forging adepts. The ignorant were truly fearless. Even if this person had a trump card, how could he ignore the difference between a mid-core forging adept and a late-core forging adept? Moreover, he was a ninth-core forging adept who was about to reach the golden core stage. Since he was going to die sooner or later, he might as well die at the hands of the old man. Although the old man did not care about the wealth of a mid-core forging adept, it was still meat. Moreover, this time, he was going deep into the fallen archipelago to look for a heaven-level spiritual item. Under the pressure of the Dharma adepts of Laozu, the chances of success were slim. If he could not achieve his goal, he could only exchange spirit stones and treasures. That would be the most difficult time for him. Therefore, it was a good choice to take this opportunity to prepare for a rainy day. Just when Lu Ping was in a weakened state after blocking the attack of Yuan Feixiang, the cultivator directly attacked with his life treasure, intending to kill him with one blow and then quickly escape. After all, there was a crazy Dharma adept behind him. If he caught up with him, he would not be able to escape. However, what surprised the cultivator was that this mid-core forging cultivator was able to recover so quickly from his sneak attack. The successive protective magic treasures seemed to be extremely powerful, allowing this mid-core forging cultivator to use his flying sword to block the attack. However, this struggle was still useless in the eyes of the cultivator. How could the life treasure of a ninth core forging adept be so easily blocked? However, an even more shocking scene occurred. Although Lu Ping's golden scale sword tried its best to disperse the light on the golden bead, it still could not stop the golden bead from moving forward. Just as the golden bead was about to pierce through Lu Ping's heart, a white jade lotus the size of a bowl suddenly appeared in front of Lu Ping's chest. The pure white petals glowed with light, and the runes on them seemed to form a mysterious array formation. The golden bead slammed into the white jade lotus and felt as if it had fallen into a ball of soft cotton. The white jade lotus swayed continuously, and the light it emitted became brighter and brighter. In the end, the golden bead couldn't take another step forward. Lu Ping opened his mouth and spat out a mouthful of blood. But before the blood could splatter on the ground, his hands formed a complicated hand seal in midair. Under the ninth layer core forging realm cultivator's shocked gaze, Lu Ping turned into a streak of blood-red light and disappeared into the poisonous fog. The bright blood-red light almost dyed the surrounding gray poisonous fog a dark red. Bloodlight escape. The ninth core forging adept stepped through the poisonous fog and grabbed the golden bead in his hand. The dim golden bead immediately returned to its original state. He raised his head and looked in the direction Lu Ping disappeared in. The strange smile on the cultivator's face deepened. Can he escape from the old man? The old man insisted on chasing after Lu Ping. Perhaps he would find some surprises on this mid-core forging adept's body. Behind him, there was a faint flash of lightning. The ninth core forging adept's expression changed, and he chased after Lu Ping. However, he seemed to be in a panic. Lu Ping used the bloodlight escape to increase his speed. Just as he was about 10 kilometers away, his face paled and he quickly stopped the secret technique. The blood Lu Ping had just spat out had turned into a bloody mist that surrounded Lu Ping's body. This was what Lu Ping was relying on to use the bloodlight escape. However, the bloody mist had already turned dark red. If Lu Ping used the secret technique again, the poison hidden within the bloody mist would infect Lu Ping's true essence and contaminate Lu Ping's bloodline. Although Lu Ping had the myriad poison meteorite shield to protect his body, it would still greatly damage Lu Ping's vitality. It would take years, or even decades for him to recover. Just as Lu Ping stopped using the bloodlight escape, Lu Ping's expression changed. Although Lu Ping was unable to fully spread out his divine sense, Lu Ping could still faintly feel a tyrannical aura rapidly approaching from several kilometers behind him. Although Lu Ping could not determine who it was, the severely injured Lu Ping immediately determined that it was the late core forging adept. Even if it wasn't, Lu Ping could only act like a frightened bird. He changed directions and fled again. After covering another distance of tens of li, Lu Ping could still faintly sense the aura of the cultivator behind him. By then, Lu Ping was certain that the cultivator behind him was coming for him. Additionally, the distance between the two of them did not widen. Instead, it grew closer. Ever since Lu Ping comprehended the minor escape technique, especially after Lu Ping combined the minor escape technique with the sea deception art to create an even faster escape technique, Lu Ping had never prepared another escape technique magic treasure for himself. The reason being, there was seawater everywhere in the ocean. It could be said that the ocean was Lu Ping's natural home ground. By relying on the seawater to activate his escape technique, Lu Ping's speed was not inferior to cultivators with escape techniques. At that moment, however, Lu Ping was vaguely regretting his decision. The fallen archipelago was filled with dangers everywhere. However, the most dangerous place was the seawater. Not even a late-stage core forging cultivator would dare enter that place. Therefore, after Lu Ping entered the myriad poison firmament wall, he had only landed on some of the islands. He dared not venture deep into the ocean, let alone use the seawater in the fallen archipelago to cast his escape technique. Your Excellency, why are you struggling like this? You should know that the difference between our cultivation bases is huge. No matter what, it is impossible to make up for it. Since Your Excellency dared to enter the fallen archipelago with the identity of a mid-stage core forging cultivator, It is true that you have some abilities that are beyond the reach of ordinary people. However, I assume that you are prepared to die here. If Your Excellency can leave behind your storage artifact, I will escort Your Excellency's soul out of the myriad poison firmament wall after Your Excellency dies. Otherwise, Your Excellency's soul will not be able to survive in the fallen archipelago. Lu Ping continued to fly forward, turning a deaf ear to the threat of the cultivator behind him. However, the expression on his face became even more determined. Hee, just a deathbed struggle. The cultivator behind him was getting closer and closer. At this moment, if Lu Ping were to turn his head, he would be able to see a blurry figure through the fog. The figure seemed to be taking a stroll as it rushed over from behind Lu Ping. At that moment, a shining pearl suddenly appeared above Lu Ping's head. The flashing lotus-shaped astral energy around his body shrank, leaving only a layer of golden astral energy around Lu Ping. This layer of astral energy looks familiar. As soon as the cultivator finished speaking, his expression changed and he seemed to have thought of something. He quickened his steps and suddenly closed the distance between him and Lu Ping in a flash of light. However, it was too late. The cultivator saw Lu Ping plunging headfirst into the dark red seawater and disappearing from sight. Quite courageous. He even dared to dive into the seawater here. Is he not afraid of being turned into blood by Jiaodorn's phlegm? The cultivator fiercely cursed his bad luck. He hesitated on the surface of the sea for a while, but in the end, he didn't dare to chase after Lu Ping. In his opinion, Lu Ping was already dead. Chapter 537. The ocean of the fallen archipelago was 100 times more dangerous than the island. The poisonous fog that permeated the fallen archipelago was originally condensed from the water vapor in the ocean. The poisonous fog itself was already so tyrannical, then the toxicity of the seawater could be imagined. For the cultivators who entered the fallen archipelago, the depths of the sea should have been the area that Fa Xiang Laozu dared to set foot in. Even a late-stage core forging cultivator would not dare to stay in the sea for such a long time like Lu Ping. Even if the golden aura Lu Ping smelted was similar to the myriad poison meteorite energy gang, it was still the same, not to mention that Lu Ping was injured. This was also the reason why the cultivator finally left the place. In his opinion, at this time, Lu Ping had already been corroded by the seawater. How could Lu Ping not know the dangers of the sea of the fallen archipelago? However, at this time, he had no way out. If this continued, Lu Ping would inevitably be captured alive by the cultivator behind him, so it was better to take a risk. Lu Ping plunged into the sea, and the water moon pearl hanging high above Lu Ping's head suddenly formed a circular shield around Lu Ping's body, repelling the surrounding seawater. However, the majority of the seawater had suffered from Jiaodorn's vitality was greatly injured and his body was heavily poisoned. How could the water moon pearl resist this kind of corrosive force? Just as the shield formed by the water moon avoidance pearls was about to collapse, the golden myriad meteorite vital poison suddenly expanded to the size of the water moon avoidance pearl shield and quickly fused with the shield, immediately slowing down the corrosive power of the seawater. The Zhen Yuan in Lu Ping's body poured down like a broken dam. Although the myriad poison meteorite energy gang temporarily resisted the corrosion of the seawater and slowly absorbed the toxicity in the seawater to refine itself, it was far from being able to keep up with the corrosion of the seawater itself. Lu Ping could only use his own Zhen Yuan to slow down the speed of the corrosion of the myriad poison meteorite energy gang. In this way, no matter how strong Lu Ping's Zhen Yuan was, there would always be a time when it would be used up. Once the Zhen Yuan was exhausted, it would be the time for Lu Ping to die. A golden light was cast in front of Lu Ping's chest, and a portal formed in front of Lu Ping. The Samling came out of the portal and saw such a scene. How could they not know what was going on? The Samling each propped up their own Zhen Yuan and temporarily merged with Lu Ping's myriad poison meteorite energy gang to resist the corrosion of the seawater. Although the myriad poison meteorite energy gang was a heaven and earth strange object of the water attribute, among the Samling, only Lu Hai, who was also of the water attribute, used this heaven and earth strange object to refine his Zhen Yuan. However, the identity of the Samling green sea snake determined their talent in poison. The Zhenyuan of the three of them were more or less condensed from several kinds of poisonous heaven and earth strange objects that Lu Ping collected for them everywhere. Therefore, their Zhenyuan was extremely resistant to the erosion of the same poison. However, just when they had just merged their Zhenyuan into Lu Ping's myriad poison meteorite energy gang, they heard Lu Ping's hurried voice. Don't use Zhenyuan. Turn into your real body immediately. When the Samling heard Lu Ping's words, they felt that the Zhenyuan all over their body suddenly had a feeling of losing control when their Zhenyuan merged with Lu Ping's myriad poison meteorite energy gang. The cultivation of the Samling was obviously not comparable to that of Lu Ping. This feeling of Zhenyuan flowing away made their faces suddenly pale. They hurriedly turned into the real body of the green sea snake. The three snake mouths opened, and a deadly poison was spat out from the mouth and injected into Lu Ping's Zhenyuan. Lu Ping suddenly felt that the previous situation of Zhenyuan draining like a flood was suddenly reduced a lot. At least Lu Ping could persist at the bottom of the sea for a longer time. However, how could the danger at the bottom of the sea only be the poison in the seawater? Back then, not only did Jiao Dorn's blood contain poison, but it also contained a copious amount of vitality. This caused many ferocious poisonous beasts to breed in this sea. These poisonous beasts had no intelligence and could not cultivate. They could only act according to their own instincts. Just when Lu Ping's situation was slightly better with the support of the Samling, a school of ink fish 3 feet long surged toward the shield that Lu Ping was in. Looking at this school of poisonous beasts with their mouths full of sharp saw teeth, Lu Ping's scalp went numb. The door of the golden house in front of his chest was once again projected in front of Lu Ping. Lu Qiner was the first to fly out of the door and let out an insufferably arrogant cry. She spat out a mouthful of Zhenyuan fire toward the school of fish outside the shield. Lu Ping shook his head helplessly but did not say anything. Sizzle. It was as if cold water had fallen into a pot of hot oil. The moment the Zhenyuan fire came into contact with the seawater, it was greatly weakened. The originally arm-thick pillar of fire was reduced to the thickness of a finger by the time it reached the school of fish. In the end, it only burned a dozen or so poisonous fish to death, but it caused the entire school of fish to become even more violent. When Lu Qiner spat out the Zhenyuan fire from her mouth, she already felt that something was wrong. The blue phoenix awkwardly closed its mouth and turned into a 12 or 13-year-old girl with a red face. She smiled at Lu Ping, and a wind wheel appeared in her hand. This was the life treasure that Lu Ping had asked Chen Lian to refine for Lu Qiner. The wind and fire wheels were originally a pair and were suitable for Lu Qiner's wind and fire dual cultivation. However, they were at the bottom of the sea, so the power of the fire wheels was greatly limited. Thus, Lu Qiner only took out the wind wheel. The wind wheel in Lu Qiner's hand spun for a while, and a dozen wind blades were thrown out. The wind blades cut through the seawater and penetrated into the school of fish. Almost every wind blade cut through 7 or 8 poisonous fish before dissipating. The dead poisonous fish were quickly devoured by the school of fish. The blood-soaked seawater made the school of fish even more violent. A series of banging sounds resounded in the air as the school of fish slammed into Lu Ping's 1,000 poison meteorite essence energy shield. Once again, Lu Ping's Zhenyuan burst out from his body. Lu Dagui came out of the portal and looked at the scene in front of him for a long time. After he reacted, a blue shield swelled from his body. It was also Lu Dagui's protective aura, and this aura was formed by smelting the Kuei water essence collected by Lu Ping. Lu Dagui's blue shield didn't completely fuse with Lu Ping's meteoric poison shield. Instead, it cleverly turned into a shield that covered almost a quarter of Lu Ping's meteoric poison shield. It constantly moved around the surface of the meteoric poison shield. Whenever the poisonous fish were the most ferocious in one direction, this shield would appear in that direction. When Luan Yu was in the Golden House, he had already noticed Lu Ping's predicament with his divine sense. After he came out of the Golden House, Luan Yu suddenly stretched out his hand and sprinkled a handful of seeds. There was a cloud of green gas attached to the seeds. When these seeds passed through the meteoric poison shield, they were embedded in the aura shield. One by one, the seeds germinated, and their tentacles pierced into the aura shield. Their branches and leaves spread out, binding the poisonous fish that were hitting the aura shield. After that, these branches and leaves pierced into the bodies of the poisonous fish. The originally green branches and leaves suddenly turned light red and began to extend along the stem towards the roots. Behind Luanyu, Debeo suddenly appeared at the entrance of the portal. However, Debeo looked around, and his pair of sparkling eyes rolled around. Then, he turned around and swayed his fat but back into the golden house. The seawater was the place that Debeo hated the most, not to mention this kind of seawater that could kill people. Pay attention, those red things are the bloodlines of the poisonous fish. You just need to expel these bloodlines from the aura shield. Hundreds of fishes were dying under these vines. The faint red had already seeped into the roots, and the faint red on the vines had turned into a normal red. The vines that had pierced into the bodies of the poisonous fishes had already turned bright red. Luanyu looked at the vines and warned, "Don't worry, I'll be fine." However, when Lu Ping sensed the bloodlines of the poisonous fish through the meteoric poison shield and was about to expel them from his body, Lu Ping was suddenly startled. A faint but extremely clear feeling came from the bloodlines of these poisonous fish. It was a feeling that Lu Ping's own bloodline had vaguely felt like déjà vu. This feeling was very familiar to Lu Ping. Before Lu Ping broke through the bottleneck of the mid-core forging realm, Lu Ping's bloodline had this feeling after he saw the Deer Demon's golden core from Taoist Master Chu Xuanqing. It was just that this feeling was far less intense than the palpitation when he saw the Deer Demon's golden core. A kind of hunger to devour and refine appeared in Lu Ping's bloodline again, but this hunger did not seem to be too serious. Refine this bloodline? Lu Ping hesitated in his heart. This could not be sloppy. Lu Ping's ultimate cultivation foundation and purity. Even if the bloodline of these poisonous fish was also the bloodline of the flood dragon, these were just some fierce beasts. How could it be compared with the green sea snake bloodline, primordial giant crocodile bloodline, koi bloodline, and the mysterious deer demon bloodline that Lu Ping had refined? However, this sense of urgency hidden in the bloodline finally made Lu Ping ingest a drop of poisonous beast bloodline. He began to extract the bloodline essence through his Zhenyuan, and then tried to refine it into his bloodline. It was just such a drop of blood. Even if the bloodline essence in it had an adverse effect on Lu Ping's bloodline, it would not have too serious an impact on Lu Ping. At worst, Lu Ping would spend a few months to eliminate these adverse factors. However, after Lu Ping smelted this drop of bloodline essence into Lu Ping's bloodline through his Zhenyuan, Lu Ping's consumption of Zhenyuan to support the myriad poison meteorite spirit was slowed down a little. To Lu Ping, the effect was real. Even though it was negligible, it was still there. Lu Ping was overjoyed. Another drop of the poisonous fish's bloodline essence was refined by Lu Ping's Zhenyuan into his bloodline. This time, the feeling of the Zhenyuan consumption was slowed down was even more clear. In the environment of the highly toxic seawater, even the myriad poison meteorite spirit, known as the mother of all poisons, could not resist the erosion of the toxic seawater because of Lu Ping's poor cultivation. But the bloodline of this poisonous fish could actually slow down this effect. Lu Ping was naturally overjoyed. Lu Ping suddenly remembered the legend that he had heard that the formation of the fallen archipelago was actually due to Jiao Daoran vomiting a mouthful of bloody phlegm after he was poisoned. These poisonous fish were also affected by the life force, poison, and bloodline contained in the bloody phlegm, thus becoming poisonous beasts. Thinking that the bloodline he was smelting now was originally a mouthful of bloody phlegm, Lu Ping felt disgusted. But at this moment, it was a moment of life and death. Lu Ping could not care too much about it. He could only force himself not to think about these things, and wholeheartedly began to refine the bloodline essence of these poisonous beasts. Chapter 538. Just after Lu Ping refined the 108th drop of the poisonous fish's bloodline essence, the 5 four-legged strange dragons hovering on the surface of the Jindan suddenly raised their heads in unison and made a long roar that only Lu Ping could hear. Suddenly, they played on the surface of the Jindan. Lu Ping could clearly perceive through divine thought that the bodies of the 5 strange dragons had become more slender, and the scales on the surface of their bodies had become brighter. The antlers on the top of their heads seemed to have grown branches. Lu Ping's true essence seemed to be running more smoothly in the bloodline, and his foundation seemed to be more solid. Even the size of the Jindan seemed to have grown a little after the integration of the bloodline essence. The refinement of these bloodlines made Lu Ping's cultivation increase, but it also eased the situation of Lu Ping's constant consumption of true essence due to his continuous injuries and the erosion of the poison in the seawater. However, after the integration of the 108th drop of bloodline essence, Lu Ping could no longer absorb a drop of bloodline essence from the poisonous fish. He could only watch the bloodline extracted from the poisonous fish being expelled by the 1,000 Poison Meteorite Power Gang. Although Lu Ping's own bloodline could no longer integrate with the dragon bloodline contained in the poisonous fish, the hunger in Lu Ping's bloodline still existed. Lu Ping's heart moved. If it was a poisonous beast with the bloodline of a dragon in the seawater, would his bloodline absorb the bloodline essence again? Moreover, refining the bloodline essence was an effective means for Lu Ping to replenish his true essence and maintain his protective aura. However, the sea area of the fallen archipelago was full of dangers. Who could guarantee that there were no poisonous beasts more terrifying than the poisonous fish? At that time, Lu Ping would not be able to absorb their bloodline, but they would eat Lu Ping's flesh and blood. Just as Lu Ping hesitated whether to continue to stay in the seawater to catch other poisonous beasts, Samling simultaneously withdrew the life-bonded poisonous mist injected into the 1,000 Poison Meteorite Power Gang. The process of Samling helping Lu Ping resist the erosion of the seawater was actually a process of refining his life-bonded talent. While Lu Ping resisted the erosion of the seawater, the 1,000 Poison Meteorite Power Gang was constantly refining the toxins contained in the seawater to strengthen the 1,000 Poison Meteorite Power Gang. It was just that this process was too slow. Just after Lu Ping refined the 108th drop of poisonous fish bloodline to replenish his true essence, Samling took the opportunity to stop refining the life-bonded poison and restore the consumed true essence. An idea came to Lu Ping. The green sea snake also had the bloodline of the Jiao Jiao, and it was known as the direct descendant of Jiao Daoren. Then, could Samling also refine the bloodline essence of these poisonous fish to promote his cultivation? As soon as this idea appeared in his mind, Lu Ping could not wait to experiment. Although he knew that after the cultivators in this world passed the blood condensation realm, he had never heard of any other cultivators still replenishing their bloodline in the process of cultivation after that. After hearing Lu Ping's order, although Samling was puzzled, he immediately followed Lu Ping's order and tried to refine and integrate the absorbed poisonous fish bloodline. At this time, with the cooperation of Lu Qiner, Lu Dagawei, and Luan Yu, more than half of the poisonous fish outside the shield had been killed. However, the poisonous fish still surrounded Lu Ping and the others, constantly biting and hitting the shield. In the inherited memory of Samling and the others, there was no legend of refining the bloodline after entering the core forging realm. The three were skeptical, so they extracted the essence of the poisonous fish bloodline and tried to integrate it with their own bloodline. However, to Lu Ping's disappointment, Samling could not smelt the bloodline essence. Seeing Samling's helpless expression, Lu Ping thought about it and personally extracted the essence of the 3 drops of bloodline and gave them to the 3. Puzzled, Samling took the 3 drops of bloodline essence and smelted it, but the result was still disappointing to Lu Ping. Lu Ping thought for a moment, then suddenly forced out 3 drops of bloodline essence from between his fingers. These 3 drops of bloodline essence had already been smelted by Lu Ping. Now, in order to verify his guess, Lu Ping once again reversed his cultivation method and forced out 3 drops of bloodline essence from the poisonous fish that had already been smelted. Lu Ping handed the 3 drops of bloodline essence that had been smelted by his own bloodline to Samling. Although Samling did not know what Lu Ping was doing, he still carefully followed Lu Ping's instructions. Immediately, Lu Bai's volatilization made Lu Ping's heart excited. Father, it really fused, and Bai can feel that these bloodlines that have been smelted by Father can actually improve my cultivation after being smelted by Bai, and it can also replenish the qi in my body. Lu Ping's heart was shocked, but his face did not show the slightest expression. He just patted Lu Bai's little head and said, These bloodlines are water attribute flood dragon bloodlines. You are wind attribute. Are there any problems? If it's not right, then don't smelt it first. When Father finds the wind attribute flood dragon bloodline for you, then I will help you cultivate. Lu Bai shook her head and said, Father, it's okay. In the process of smelting the bloodline, Bayer only smelted the essence of the flood dragon bloodline and did not mix anything else. Lu Ping nodded but didn't say a word. If it was related to the cultivation method's elemental attribute, Lu Ping might not be able to refine a wind elemental bloodline. After all, he only had a water elemental Jiao bloodline. Although Lu Bai said that smelting the same kind of bloodline that was not related to one's own attribute was not an obstacle, Lu Ping still wanted to see the situation of Lu Hai and Lu Ling. Sure enough, after a while, Lu Hai was the first to recover. He stretched comfortably and said, It's so comfortable. I feel that my cultivation has made great progress. After saying that, Lu Hai looked at Lu Bai and Lu Ling proudly. This time, he was in closed-door cultivation to consolidate the second-layer core forging realm he had just broken through. Unexpectedly, Lu Ping interrupted the three's closed-door cultivation because of the critical moment of life and death. But even so, the three of them went through this training and refined their own natal poison to a higher level. However, what the three people did not expect was that Lu Ping actually had a way to fuse with Samling's bloodline again. Moreover, after Samling fused with the bloodline essence of the poisonous fish condensed by Lu Ping, he found that not only was his qi replenished, but it seemed that his cultivation had also been consolidated. More importantly, the bloodline power contained in these bloodline essences was even faintly above the bloodline of Samling's green sea snake. It should be known that the green sea snake had always been known as the direct descendant of Jiao Daoren. Even the primeval giant crocodile did not dare to encroach on the green sea snake status as the number one family of the flood dragon bloodline. However, after Samling smelted these 3 drops of bloodline essences, he was surprised to find that the bloodline power contained in these 3 drops of bloodline essences was actually above that of the green sea snake. How could the green sea snake be convinced? Could it be that the fallen archipelago was really formed because of Jiao Daoren's bloody phlegm, and the poisonous beasts in the fallen archipelago were also formed from the huge vitality contained in this bloody phlegm? Lu Bai and Lu Linger, although this group of poisonous beasts were obviously of the water attribute, after the integration of their bloodline essence, their bloodline was also enhanced, but the benefits in the progress of cultivation were far less than Lu Hai, which made Lu Hai very proud. Seeing that the 3 of them were fine, Lu Ping once again absorbed the bloodline of the poisonous fish. After refining the bloodline essence himself, he forced Samling from his body to fuse with the bloodline. Although Lu Ping did not know why the bloodline essence had to be refined by his own bloodline, so that Samling could still maintain the characteristics of bloodline fusion after the core forging stage, he was prepared for his bloodline to be different from other cultivators. Because Lu Ping's cultivation had been stuck at the bottleneck of the 3rd level of core forging stage for several years because he had not refined his bloodline. Even if he had a spirit object of heaven and earth, he could not help him break through until he finally refined the golden core of a mysterious deer demon. In the cultivation world, no one had ever heard of anyone needing to supplement their bloodline for the 4th time to advance to the middle stage of core forging stage, so it became a secret of Lu Ping. Therefore, after Lu Ping found that the bloodline essence of the poisonous fish seemed to have an indescribable attraction to his own bloodline, he did not hesitate to fuse with the bloodline. This was actually more like a kind of bloodline evolution. This slow evolution allowed Lu Ping and Samling's cultivation base to be consolidated from the foundation to ensure that they would go further on the road of cultivation in the future. Lu Ping smelted 81 drops of bloodline essence for Samling. After integrating 27 drops of bloodline essence for each person, they seemed to have reached a saturation point and could no longer integrate the bloodline essence of these poisonous fish. At this time, the poisonous fish outside the shield were almost completely slaughtered by Luan Yu and the others. The entire sea around Lu Ping had long been dyed dark red by the blood of the poisonous fish. At this time, Luan Yu suddenly said, "I'm afraid the situation will not be good if this continues. Most of the poisonous beasts in the sea have no intelligence. If we encounter them, They will not rest until they die. If this continues, we will be exhausted to death by these poisonous beasts. Moreover, the smell of blood from these poisonous beasts is spreading in the sea. I'm afraid it will attract more poisonous beasts that are harder to deal with." Lu Ping nodded. The effect of the waterproof pearl was activated. Lu Ping and the others immediately became very agile in the sea. They quickly escaped from the sea that was dyed red with the blood of the poisonous fish. However, before Lu Ping left, he had an idea. He threw the bodies of the poisonous fish around him into the golden house. Not long after Lu Ping and the others left, countless poisonous beasts suddenly emerged from the sea in all directions. Some moved alone, while others moved in groups. When these poisonous beasts came to the blood-filled sea, they seemed to have been provoked and became extremely crazy. They fought over the bodies of the poisonous fish floating in the surrounding sea. However, there was no conflict between the poisonous beasts. This huge school of fish wandered in the surrounding sea for a long time. After finding nothing, they slowly dispersed from this sea. However, after the huge group of poisonous beasts dispersed, Lu Ping and the others, who were hiding in an underwater canyon in the distance, quietly followed behind one of the smaller groups of poisonous beasts. Lu Ping used the 3 pure eyes to clearly see the group of poisonous beasts. They were a group of poisonous beasts that looked like sea snakes. However, the sea monsters were red all over. From afar, they looked like a mass of blood rolling in the sea. Chapter 539. In front of the group of scarlet sea snakes, a foot-tall gourd that was flickering with colorful brilliance suddenly appeared. Purple lightning flashed from time to time in the space half a foot around the gourd, making the gourd look abnormally demonic from afar. There were hundreds of scarlet sea snakes. The sudden appearance of such a thing in the direction they were heading in immediately attracted the attention of many sea snakes. A few sea snakes took the lead to leave the group and swam forward, looking like they were exploring the way. A few sea snakes circled around the gourd a few times, and one of them carefully approached the gourd. However, when the sea snake approached within half a foot of the gourd, a colorful brilliance flashed, and the sea snake's body immediately stiffened. Seeing this situation, the other sea snakes swam randomly, distancing themselves from the gourd. They watched their companion's stiff body slowly descend to the bottom of the sea from afar. At the same time, the group that was moving slowly behind them also stopped moving, seemingly watching the development of the situation ahead. However, just after the sea snake sank several tens of feet, its stiff body suddenly moved as if it was trying to get rid of something. Then, the sea snake's body swayed more and more violently. After a while, the stiff sea snake seemed to have finally regained control of its body. After its sinking body stopped, it swam up and down in the seawater for a while, seemingly checking if its body had suffered any damage. After that, the sea snake suddenly raised its head and swam upward, once again coming to the vicinity of the gourd. After swimming around the gourd a few times, the sea snake seemed to have made up its mind and approached the gourd half a foot away from it again. Another brilliance flashed, and the stiff sea snake sank to the bottom of the sea again. After a while, the sea snake, who had regained control of its body, swam straight toward the gourd again. This time, it didn't even test the waters before. It went straight into the range of the gourd, then stiffened, sank, and recovered. The sea snake actually didn't get tired of it, as if it was treating this as a game. Or perhaps, after the brilliance around the gourd flickered, it experienced a kind of pleasure from the process of its stiff body sinking. When the other sea snakes saw what happened to the first sea snake, it finally piqued their curiosity. The other sea snakes that came with the first sea snake also cautiously approached the gourd. What happened after that was the same as the first sea snake. This soon attracted all the sea snakes behind them. After a while, the gourd was submerged in this huge sea snake group. From time to time, the stiff sea snakes sank to the bottom of the sea without moving. The entire sea snake group seemed to treat the gourd suspended in the sea as a toy, and they didn't realize the slightest danger. About a mile away from this group of sea snakes, Lu Ping merged the meteoric poison force and the waterproof pearl into the shield. Then, He stood in the shield with Luan Yu and Samling, watching the scene in the distance. I didn't expect it to have such an effect. Originally, I thought that the Seven Treasures lightning calabash was the bane of these poisonous beasts. However, I was worried about how to bring all the poisonous beasts into the range of the lightning calabash's attack. Lu Ping chuckled and looked at the scene in the distance as he smiled at Luan Yu. Luan Yu shook her head in surprise. Then, she sighed and said, I originally thought that after knowing you for so many years, although I admire your strength and cultivation, I also thought that I understood you well enough. I didn't expect you to have so many magic treasures and secret arts. Every time you show them, they amaze me. I didn't expect you to have such a treasure as well, and it has even grown to the small perfection stage. Lu Ping smiled. His hands moved like butterflies flying through flowers, forming several hand seals in an instant. Suddenly, he pointed in the direction of the Seven Treasure Thunder Gourd, which was submerged by the sea snakes, and shouted, Ja! The group formed by the hundreds of sea snakes was like a volcanic eruption. A purple brilliance instantly penetrated from the center of the group of snakes, drowning all the snakes in the lightning. The beautiful colors seemed to bloom with unimaginable brilliance in the dark sea. The lightning and electricity spread in all directions. Even though Lu Ping and the others were far away from the center of the explosion, the power of the Seven Treasure Thunder Gourd still spread. Lu Ping's meteoric poison force suddenly flashed with countless lights. Luan Yu, who was inside Lu Ping's shield, could still feel waves of numbness coming from his body. However, after being weakened by the meteoric poison force, it could no longer cause any harm to Lu Ping and the others. After Lu Ping refined the Seven Treasure Thunder Gourd to the small perfection stage, he could completely fuse the seven minor Een Thunders together to form a major divine ability, the Seven Treasure Een Thunder. This was Lu Ping's second major divine ability. When the Seven Treasure Thunder Gourd suddenly erupted, hundreds of sea snakes around the Thunder Gourd were almost completely covered by the Thunder Gourd's major divine ability. More than 100 sea snakes closest to the Thunder Gourd were instantly turned into nothingness under the eruption of the Thunder Gourd's major divine ability. More than 100 sea snakes were turned into charcoal, and their blood had already turned into nothingness. Only more than 200 sea snakes on the outermost periphery escaped the fate of destruction because they didn't squeeze near the Thunder Gourd in the first place. They were all stunned by the power of the Seven Treasure Een Thunder Gourd. This was also the reason why Lu Ping used the Seven Treasure Thunder Gourd to plot against these sea snakes. He wanted to obtain the blood essence of this group of sea snakes, but he didn't want to fight them head-on and waste his Zhen Yuan. After all, the Sea of the Fallen Archipelago could be said to be full of danger at every step. Lu Ping needed to ensure that his strength wouldn't be weakened too much, not to mention that he was already injured at the moment. However, after Lu Ping saw the damage caused by the Seven Treasure Thunder Gourd, he unconsciously frowned. Luan Yu saw this and joked, "What's wrong? Are you still not satisfied with such a tyrannical major divine ability?" Lu Ping looked thoughtful, but he didn't answer. His body moved and immediately moved in the direction of the Seven Treasure Thunder Gourd. Luan Yu had no choice but to follow behind him. His protective magical ability was far inferior to Lu Ping's, not to mention staying at the bottom of the sea in such an environment. Lu Ping arrived in front of the sea snakes and stretched out his hand. The Seven Treasure Thunder Gourd that was submerged in the sea snakes suddenly fell into Lu Ping's hand. After a burst of electric flashes, the Seven Treasure Thunder Gourd was still firmly grasped in Lu Ping's hand. At this time, Luan Yu also saw that something was wrong and asked, "Why does the Seven Treasure Thunder Gourd look a little out of control? Is it going to advance to a spiritual magic treasure? But that's not right. Don't you have the Seven Treasure Thunder Gourd's spiritual restriction on you?" Lu Ping shook his head, indicating that he didn't know either. "Don't worry about it. First, collect the sea snakes that haven't been affected. I hope that I can collect enough blood essence from these sea snakes. If it was before, the Seven Treasure Thunder Gourd wouldn't have such great power. At least 100 sea snakes would be able to retain their blood essence. But now, all of them have been turned into charcoal." The Seven Treasure Thunder Gourd was thrown by Lu Ping. Suddenly, it shrunk and fell into Lu Ping's chest before disappearing. But Lu Ping's body unconsciously trembled. Luan Yu found this funny and said, "It seems that your 7-treasure thunder gourd is a bit wrong. More than 200 sea snakes were collected." This time, Luan Yu didn't even need to lift a finger. Countless golden threads suddenly extended from the surface of the myriad meteoric poison energy shield. Each thread pierced into a sea snake. A faint, blood-red color immediately seeped out of the sea snake's body. It then followed the golden threads back to the myriad meteoric poison energy shield. Soon, the entire golden shield was once again dyed with a faint layer of red. Lu Ping quickly smelted a drop of blood essence and carefully fused it with the blood in his body. A moment later, Lu Ping's closed eyes suddenly opened and a hint of joy flashed through them. As he had expected, after changing to a different race, the strange blood in Lu Ping's body finally began to fuse with the blood essence of the sea snakes. The pure power of the blood continuously gathered and condensed into Lu Ping's blood, causing Lu Ping's blood to become even more mellow. A faint pressure of blood gradually overflowed from Lu Ping's body. Luan Yu, who was beside Lu Ping, felt the changes in Lu Ping's body and was shocked. It should be known that the Wood Luang clan, which Luan Yu belonged to, was also a top-level Yao beast in the world of cultivation. Even low-level Yao beasts could feel the pressure of blood in their veins. But now, Luan Yu could feel the pressure of blood from Lu Ping's body. Didn't that mean that Lu Ping's bloodline was even more noble than the top-level Yao beasts who were known as the direct descendants of the 7th patriarch? It was still the same 108 drops of blood essence. Lu Ping's demand for the blood of this strange sea snake had once again reached a saturation point. The 5 strange dragons hovered over the surface of the golden core, seemingly very excited. Lu Ping could almost clearly feel the growth of his cultivation and the blood in his body changing in a direction that Lu Ping could not quite understand. Lu Ping let out a sigh helplessly. Although his cultivation had now increased, this was only a side effect of smelting the blood. The real effect was that Lu Ping's blood could now withstand more Zhenyuan. In other words, Lu Ping's Zhenyuan would become more vigorous and pure than it was now. Along with this, the growth of Lu Ping's cultivation in the future would also become more difficult. In any case, at least for now, it seemed that the benefits were enough to cover up these flaws. After Lu Ping finished smelting the blood, he once again helped Samling to start smelting the blood. It was still 27 drops of blood essence per person. After Lu Ling finished smelting, she said excitedly, "Father, Ling Er's cultivation is also about to break through. If I can smelt the blood again, I'm afraid I can reach the 2nd level of core forging." Lu Ping smiled and praised Lu Ling Er. Lu Ling happily went to show off to Lu Hai. Naturally, Lu Hai tried his best to suppress her. Not long after, the two went from debating to quarreling. Lu Ping helplessly slapped his forehead. With a wave of his hand, he stuffed the 2 troublemakers into the golden house and let the Scion Luan, who wanted to see the world in chaos, judge. At this time, Lu Bai also stood up and said, "Father, Bai Er's cultivation has also reached the peak of the 1st level of core forging." Chapter 540. At the bottom of the sea, Lu Ping hid under a huge coral cluster and watched as dozens of poisonous crocodiles, each 20 to 30 feet long, slowly swam across the water above his head. Lu Ping had a hard time avoiding the large groups of poisonous beasts in the sea before he found these dozens of poisonous crocodiles with green ripples all over their bodies. Just as these 70 or 80 poisonous crocodiles swam over Lu Ping's head, a 1-foot-tall gourd suddenly rose from the seabed and directly appeared in the middle of the group of poisonous crocodiles. Before the surrounding poisonous crocodiles could react, the gourd suddenly spat out 7 different colored lightning bolts in a row. The 7 lightning bolts intertwined with each other, like 7 chains extending towards every poisonous crocodile in the group. After refining the blood essence of the poisonous sea beasts for the 3rd time, not only did Lu Ping temporarily suppress the injuries in his body, but his Zhenyuan also recovered a lot. However, after refining the blood essence for the 3rd time, Lu Ling ushered in an opportunity for a breakthrough, so Lu Ping took her back to the Golden House for seclusion. As for Lu Ping, he once again returned to the surface of the sea, ready to temporarily open up a cave residence to sort out and digest the 3 kinds of blood essences so that they could completely fuse with his own bloodline, so as to avoid any hidden dangers. However, the moment Lu Ping slowly rose from the sea, he felt 2 tyrannical divine senses, one on the left and one on the right, pressing towards him from both sides. In just a moment, these 2 divine senses were withdrawn. In a place like the Fallen Archipelago, even a late core forging cultivator's divine sense wouldn't dare to roam outside for a long time. Lu Ping was shocked, and the hairs on his body suddenly stood up. Cold sweat flowed down his back. He was actually ambushed by 2 late core forging cultivators. Only then did Lu Ping realize that the seawater beneath his feet weakened his divine telekinesis even more than the poisonous fog. Before Lu Ping came out of the seawater, he did not realize that there was someone above him. Lu Ping secretly raised his guard, ready to dive back into the sea to escape at any time. 2 late-stage core forging cultivators, 2 cultivators who were no weaker than the one who had been chasing him earlier, were attacking him at the same time. It could be said that Lu Ping had no chance of surviving. However, the attack Lu Ping was expecting didn't come. When Lu Ping raised his head to look to his left and right, he discovered that there were 2 ninth-stage core forging cultivators on either side of him, each looking at Lu Ping with a gloomy expression. At the same time, their gazes would occasionally drift behind Lu Ping. Lu Ping was shocked. Could it be that there was someone behind him? Why hadn't he discovered it? Lu Ping suddenly turned around and looked behind him. He saw a pool of blue water floating above the dark green seawater. It was a very strange sight. The blue light was very familiar to Lu Ping. This pool of water floating above the seawater was the water attribute worldly wonder, sunflower water essence, that Lu Ping urgently needed. Looking at the pool of Kuei water essence, Lu Ping's eyes flashed with a trace of realization. The 2 of them weren't here for Lu Ping, but because of the pool of Kuei water essence. But at this moment, Lu Ping himself strangely appeared next to the pool of Kuei water essence between the 2 of them, instantly drawing their attention to him. This was truly an unexpected disaster. Lu Ping never thought that he would have such a good luck. Lu Ping took a deep breath and was about to explain to the 2 cultivators on both sides that he just happened to be there. He had no intention of getting the sunflower water essence and was ready to retreat. But just as Lu Ping looked at the cultivator on the left, the cultivator's expression changed drastically. He took a few steps back and said anxiously, "Since Senior has taken a liking to this wondrous item, I naturally have no objections. I'll leave now. After saying that, the light under his feet really flickered, and he disappeared into the poisonous fog. Lu Ping was stunned at first, then his heart moved. He calmed down the expression on his face and calmly looked at the cultivator on the right. When the cultivator on the right saw Lu Ping looking at him with a blank expression, his heart trembled. He reluctantly looked at the sunflower water essence behind Lu Ping. A trace of unwillingness flashed in his eyes, but he still said respectfully, "Junior just happened to pass by. Since Senior has taken a fancy to this thing, then this thing naturally belongs to Senior. Junior will leave first." After that, he quickly flashed into the poisonous mist and disappeared. At this time, Lu Ping finally guessed the truth of the matter. He looked down at the stone armor on his body. It must be because of this thing. This pool of sunflower water essence should be discovered by the 2 late-stage core forging realm cultivators together. However, both of them had the idea of taking it for themselves, but because their cultivation was similar, they were afraid of each other, so they could only confront each other on the sea. However, at this moment, Lu Ping floated up from the sea. In the Fallen Archipelago, diving into the sea to search for treasures was often the privilege of Law Phase Laozu, because only the cultivation of Law Phase cultivator could resist the poisonous and corrosive power in the sea that was more powerful than the poisonous mist. What's more, because of the stone armor, the 2 could not perceive Lu Ping's cultivation, which made Lu Ping more and more unpredictable in the eyes of the 2. So after Lu Ping noticed the sunflower water essence behind him, both of them thought that Lu Ping wanted to take this pool of sunflower water essence alone. Although the 2 were extremely unwilling, they really did not have the strength to challenge Law Phase Laozu. In the end, they could only retreat helplessly and give up the treasure. Lu Ping's divine sense abruptly spread out in all directions, but he didn't find any hidden cultivators around. So, the projection of a golden door appeared in front of Lu Ping's chest. The door slowly opened and a suction force came from the door. The Kuei water essence floating on the surface of the sea turned into a thin stream and flowed through the golden door, disappearing without a trace. When Lu Ping was still a blood condensation realm cultivator, he once found a land of hundreds of flowers on an island on the periphery of the fallen secret land. There, he obtained one of Lu Ping's life source magic treasures, the 9th grade white jade lotus. Together with the 9th grade white jade lotus, he obtained a pool of sunflower water essence, 9 lotus seeds, and a lotus root. The pool of sunflower water essence was used by Lu Ping to smelt his protective aura. In the end, there was only a third of it left. Lu Ping threw 3 of the 9 lotus seeds into the pool for nourishment. After many years, the 3 lotus seeds had begun to grow, but the sunflower water essence was gradually exhausted because of the growth of the lotus seeds. Later, although Lu Ping searched around the North Sea for some, it was still a drop in the bucket. Now, the pool of sunflower water essence was only left with a shallow bottom, causing the 3 growing lotuses to look a lot wilder. The total amount of the pool of sunflower water essence was quite a lot. After being stored by Lu Ping into the golden house, the small pool was filled to the brim. Then, Lu Ping used a storage jade bottle to store more than half of the bottle. This kind of storage jade bottle was specially used to store liquids. Although it was only half full, if all the sunflower water essence was poured out, it would be able to fill the small pool of white jade lotus by 1/3. When the sunflower water essence filled the small pool, the 3 lotus leaves floating on the surface of the sunflower water essence, which originally looked wilder, suddenly became verdant, as if it had suddenly regained its vitality. Lu Ping was naturally in a good mood after obtaining such a large amount of sunflower water essence. However, it was not advisable to stay here for long. Lu Ping turned around and disappeared into the thick fog. Lu Ping closed up in a temporary underground cave for 3 days. During this period, Lu Ping always paid attention to the changes in the density of the poisonous fog outside the cave. This was to prevent Lu Ping from missing the opportunity to exit the myriad poison skywall when the density of the poisonous fog began to rise. If that happened, Lu Ping could only wait for death. After combing through the fused bloodline, Lu Ping dealt with all the possible hidden dangers. At the same time, he also completely recovered from the injuries on his body. The golden pill used by the late-stage core forging realm cultivator that attacked Lu Ping was a spirit-nurturing realm magic treasure. However, Lu Ping used several methods to weaken its power. Although Lu Ping was still injured in the end, the 9th grade white jade lotus had just been refined by Lu Ping to the 4th spirit communicating treasure restriction. Its innate material made its defensive power extremely high. As a result, Lu Ping's injuries could not be considered serious. However, this time, under the sneak attack of a late-stage core forging realm cultivator, Lu Ping did not suffer a big loss. The most important thing was that when the cultivator launched the sneak attack, Lu Ping was able to get rid of the effects of Yuan's soaring thunder divine ability on his body. Although the lightning divine ability of Yuan's soaring thunder divine ability was blocked by Lu Ping, this divine ability was extremely strange. After Lu Ping blocked the impact of the divine ability, a weakened divine ability erupted from the inside of the divine ability. This method of releasing divine abilities was often called the mother and child divine ability in the cultivation world. The hidden divine ability of Yuan's soaring thunder divine ability was not very powerful. Its purpose was often not to kill, but to control and interfere. In a battle between cultivators, life and death was often decided by a hair's breadth. Caught off guard, Lu Ping was struck by the small divine ability hidden within the lightning divine ability. His entire body was paralyzed, and he was unable to control himself. The cultivator took this opportunity to launch a sneak attack on Lu Ping. At this moment of life and death, the 7 treasures lightning gourd in his core space suddenly trembled. The lightning that pervaded Lu Ping's body was completely absorbed by the 7 treasures lightning gourd. This allowed Lu Ping to break free from the mother and child divine abilities' control over him. In the end, he was able to block the sneak attack from the cultivator's spirit-nurturing treasure. However, it was precisely because the Seven Treasures Thunder Gourd had absorbed the lightning divine art that the Thunder Gourd had cultivated to the minor perfection stage, but couldn't advance further due to the lack of a psychic treasure forbidden art. It suddenly became restless. From time to time, lightning flashed out from the Seven Treasures Thunder Gourd, causing Lu Ping to be on tenterhooks as he stared at his heart space. He was afraid that the Seven Treasures Thunder Gourd would suddenly go out of control and unleash its lightning divine art. Lu Ping originally thought that the Seven Treasures Lightning Gourd had absorbed too much lightning. Therefore, he came up with the idea of using the lightning gourd to capture poisonous beasts. He wanted to release the lightning divine ability from the lightning gourd to regain control of the Seven Treasures Lightning Gourd. Chapter 541. The Seven Treasures Thunder Gourd, which had been causing a ruckus in Lu Ping's heart space for several days, finally stopped. Lu Ping heaved a long sigh of relief. After all, it was extremely dangerous for an unstable mystic treasure to be stored in his heart space. Lu Ping carefully used his spiritual sense to observe the talisman formation inside the Seven Treasure Thunder Calabash. Originally, there were only 3 talisman formations inside the Seven Treasure Thunder Calabash, but now, on top of these 3 talisman formations, a shallow and incomplete talisman pattern was gradually being outlined. This incomplete talisman pattern was the main reason why the Seven Treasure Thunder Calabash almost went out of control. When this talisman pattern was formed, it was when the Seven Treasure Thunder Calabash suddenly absorbed Yuan's lightning ability. Although this talisman pattern was extremely shallow and the entire talisman pattern looked incomplete, just this incomplete talisman pattern alone was extremely complex. Even with Lu Ping's meticulous study of the mysterious jade slip he obtained from Fei Ling Island, it was difficult to see the complete picture of the Fei Ling sex restriction techniques. It seemed to be only a small part of an extremely profound restriction. However, it was this incomplete talisman pattern that gave the Seven Treasure Thunder Calabash a different feeling. It seemed to have a trace of a spiritual magic treasure, but it was still too far away. Lu Ping had long suspected that this incomplete talisman pattern was a part of the Seven Treasure Thunder Calabash's spiritual treasure restriction. However, what surprised Lu Ping was that in the cultivation world, there was no legend that the Seven Treasure Thunder Calabash could form a talisman formation without being refined by a cultivator. Could it be because of Yuan Feixiang's lightning god art? Or could it be that the Seven Treasure Thunder Calabash itself could absorb lightning abilities to advance? Lu Ping didn't know the reason behind this, but he guessed that the Yuan clan also had the inheritance of refining the Seven Treasures Thunder Calabash. At the very least, the Yuan clan's famous thunder and lightning magical ability in the cultivation world was related to the Seven Treasures Thunder Calabash's spiritual barrier. In the world of cultivation, the Kuan Fish clan was known as the direct descendant of Peng Laozu, and the Yuan clan was the only inheritor of Peng Laozu's thunder bloodline in the world of cultivation. Although these two clans were both descendants of Peng Laozu's bloodline, one was a demon clan, the other a human clan. Moreover, one was a hegemon in the Eastern Sea, the other was the number 1 clan in the Central Earth, so the two clans did not have much interaction in the world of cultivation. However, since they were both descendants of Peng Laozu, and the Seven Treasures Thunder Calabash was the number 1 magic treasure in the world of cultivation, then it was reasonable for the Yuan clan to have the Seven Treasures Thunder Calabash's inheritance. Not to mention that the Seven Treasures Thunder Calabash was of the thunder attribute. The Yuan clan was the only inheritor of Peng Laozu's thunder bloodline, so it was more reasonable for them to have the Seven Treasures Thunder Calabash's inheritance. After Lu Linger's cultivation broke through to the 2nd level of core forging, Lu Ping didn't immediately let Lu Linger go into seclusion to consolidate her cultivation. Instead, he continued to roam the sea with Sam Ling, searching for some relatively small groups of poisonous beasts. After using the Seven Treasures Thunder Calabash to stun most of the poisonous beasts, he began to absorb their bloodline essence and smelt it into his own bloodline. On this day, Lu Ping had just smelted the bloodline essence of a poisonous beast, causing Lu Ping to smelt a total of 12 types of bloodline essences. The total amount of bloodline essence he had smelted was 1,296 drops. The feeling of hunger in his bloodline suddenly disappeared without a trace. Samling's bloodline had actually reached saturation when Lu Ping smelted the 9th type of poisonous beast's bloodline. During this period, Lu Bai had also used a few days to break through to the 2nd level of core forging. After that, she was thrown into the Golden House by Lu Ping for seclusion. After that, Lu Ping was the only one who refined the 3 types of bloodlines. After the feeling of hunger in his bloodline disappeared, Lu Ping had a premonition that his bloodline had also reached saturation. Just in case, Lu Ping once again tracked down a group of poisonous beasts in the sea. After knocking all of these poisonous beasts out, he discovered that his bloodline had indeed stopped fusing with the bloodline of these poisonous beasts. Lu Ping shook his head with some regret. Now, he believed that the fallen archipelago was formed after the injured Zhao Daoran spat out a mouthful of poisonous blood. It wasn't only because of the magical myriad heavenly poison wall, but also because of the poisonous beast's bloodline. The grade of these poisonous beasts' bloodlines might not be comparable to the top-grade monsters that possessed inherited memories in the cultivation world. However, the bloodline essence contained in these poisonous beasts was extremely pure. Lu Ping had smelted the bloodline essence of 12 types of poisonous beasts, a total of 1,296 drops of bloodline essence. In addition to forging a rare foundation for Lu Ping in the cultivation world, these bloodline essences also gave him a noble coercion that came from his bloodline. When Lu Ping deliberately released this coercion, even Luan Yu felt extremely uncomfortable. When Lu Daguai saw Lu Ping, he immediately transformed into his original form and assumed a posture of worship and submission. When Lu Ping deliberately released the coercion of his bloodline, Dabeo turned around and ran away. Only Samling had not only fused with the bloodline essence, but every drop of the bloodline essence was first refined in Lu Ping's own bloodline before being given to them to fuse with. In this way, not only was Samling not afraid of Lu Ping's bloodline coercion, but his relationship with Lu Ping was even closer. Luan Yu gradually sensed a faint aura of suppression from the 3 spirits, which greatly displeased him. Lu Ping wasn't a big deal as he was already used to Luan Yu's ability to surprise others. But the 3 spirits were just top-grade monster cultivators like him, and Luan Yu's cultivation base was higher than the 3 spirits. So why was the 3 spirits' bloodline suppression able to affect him as well? Lu Ping naturally did not care about Luan Yu's thoughts. However, he was somewhat happy about his progress in cultivation. After refining the 12 bloodlines, Lu Ping's cultivation had also improved greatly. He was only 1 step away from the peak of the 5th stage of core forging realm and breaking through to the 6th stage. These 12 bloodlines had saved Lu Ping at least 10 years of hard work in his cultivation. After completing the bloodline smelting, Lu Ping once again began to search for rare treasures on various islands. At this time, it had been nearly 2 months since the opening of the Fallen Archipelago. Every time the Fallen Archipelago opened for 2 months, the concentration of poisonous fog above the Fallen Archipelago could rise at any time. When that time came, the Fallen Archipelago would close. In history, the Fallen Archipelago had never been opened for more than 3 months. Although the area of the Fallen Archipelago was large, such a long time was enough for cultivators to collect most of the spiritual herbs, spiritual materials, and other cultivation resources on the islands. However, the seabed was different. It was almost a forbidden area for core forging realm cultivators. Only Fa Xiong, Lao Zhu, could enter and exit freely. Therefore, Lu Ping set his goal to search for treasures on the seabed. Unfortunately, although there were many good things on the seabed was wider. Even if the cultivation resources were more abundant than on the islands, it could not be as concentrated as on the islands. Moreover, although Lu Ping's myriad poison meteorite gang's ability to resist the erosion of the poison in the seawater had greatly increased, it was still a big burden on Lu Ping's zhenqi consumption. It was impossible for Lu Ping to stay in the seawater for a long time. On this day, Lu Ping's luck came again. He had just found a head-sized, second-class metal attribute spiritual material, 1000 sand copper, on the seabed. Although this spiritual material was not high-grade, it was extremely rare. This spiritual material was indispensable for refining high-grade pill furnaces, top-grade pill furnaces, and even magic pill furnaces. This made the 1,000 sand kappa's value in the cultivation world comparable to that of an earth-grade spiritual object. Lu Ping carefully examined the 1,000 sand kappa's surroundings. After discovering that there were no hidden dangers, he stored the head-sized spiritual material, which actually weighed several thousand kilograms, into his storage artifact. Just as Lu Ping stored the 1,000 sand kappa into his interspatial mystic artifact, a loud bang suddenly came from the bottom of the sea in the distance. The seabed beneath his feet shook violently and countless specks of dust rose into the air, turning the seawater murky. Lu Ping was shocked. When he turned to look, he saw the seawater in the distance rapidly turbulent. A huge shockwave brought along a powerful undercurrent that was rushing towards Lu Ping. It was already too late for Lu Ping to hide. He held the water control flag in his hand and immediately executed the water control art. The seawater around Lu Ping was also turbulent, and it rushed towards the rushing undercurrent. At the same time, it constantly disintegrated the undercurrent's power, obstructed its speed, and changed its direction. However, the power of the undercurrent was too tyrannical. Even though Lu Ping did his best to execute the water control art, he could only affect a portion of the undercurrent. The rest was still rushing towards Lu Ping. Lu Ping's expression was solemn. 5 layers of stellar energy bloomed around him like a lotus. Together with the outermost layer of the myriad poison meteorite gang, they formed the white jade lotus gang that was unique to Lu Ping. At the same time, Lu Ping patted his chest. A bowl-sized 9th-grade white jade lotus suddenly floated out from Lu Ping's chest. Lu Ping slowly rose from the seabed. The lotus floated under Lu Ping's feet and suddenly expanded, immediately merging with the white jade lotus gang around his body. The undercurrent whistled, and the 9th-grade white jade lotus shone brightly. However, Lu Ping was still unable to control his body. He was directly swept away by the undercurrent. Fortunately, although the 9th-grade white jade lotus had just advanced to become a psychic artifact, its defense was really strong. The white light lingered around Lu Ping's body, protecting Lu Ping from being affected by the undercurrent. Lu Ping was carried a few miles away by the undercurrent. Only then did he manage to use the water control art to control the surrounding water flow and stop himself. Lu Ping looked in the direction of the loud noise with lingering fear. This was definitely a fight between Dharma adepts at the bottom of the sea, and he had become a fish in the moat. However, he did not know what kind of treasure the Dharma adepts were fighting over. It had to be at least a high-grade Earth-level spirit item, or it could be something like the growing soil, which was as valuable as a heaven-level spirit item. Lu Ping thought to himself. Just as Lu Ping extinguished his curiosity to find out what was going on and prepared to go far away, a continuous roar came from the bottom of the sea again. Although the noise this time was not as loud as the first time, it was much more frequent and concentrated. However, what made Lu Ping's heart jump was that the roar was coming towards Lu Ping and was getting closer and closer. Chapter 542. Lu Ping turned around to escape, but how could his speed compare to that of a Dharma adept? With no other choice, Lu Ping could only turn around and hide in a valley at the bottom of the sea, hoping to avoid the aftershocks of the battle between Dharma adepts. Fortunately, Lu Ping had been wearing the stone armor. Although this set of armor could not be detected by late core forging adepts, he did not know if this set of armor could hide from Dharma adepts. The tremors in the sea became more and more intense, and countless amounts of soil rose from the bottom of the sea, stirring up the sea until it was impossible to see clearly, but it also made it easier for Lu Ping to hide. The rumbling sounds were getting closer, and Lu Ping could vaguely hear the angry roars of the adepts. However, the expression on Lu Ping's face became more and more strange. Mei Tianqin, I think you'd better leave that piece of Shintian evil wood behind? Haha, Master Dongji, aren't you afraid that I, Jinling, will take revenge on both the Vast Sea sect and the Zhonglang sect in the future in the North Sea? Mei Tianqin's words had obviously hit the nail on the head. Not far away, a cold grunt could be heard, and the battle between the two sides became more and more intense. After a while, Dongji Laozu's voice could be heard. The North Sea no longer has the vast sea sect and the Zonglang sect. There is only one sect, the Zonglang sect. Once our two sects merge, there will be 7 Dharma adepts, and 3 of them will be at the mid-Dharma stage. How can you, Junling, deal with them as you wish? 3 mid-Dharma adepts? Tianqin Laozu's solemn and surprised voice rang out. Could it be that Master Dong Kuan has successfully passed the tribulation of the early Dharma stage and advanced to the mid-Dharma stage? Laozu of the East Pole seemed to have let the cat out of the bag. After a moment of silence, he knew that there was no need to keep it a secret anymore. So he said, "That's right. Junior sister Dongkuan has already advanced to the mid-Dharma stage. Jinling's schemes in the North Sea have forced even the Xianling sect to admit defeat. Now that you, Mei Tianqin, have returned to the North Sea, I'm afraid that it will have a huge impact on the North Sea training world again. Of the 9 Dharma adepts, Laozu is the undisputed number 1 among all the sects in the North Sea. However, Jinling is not the only one who knows how to scheme in the North Sea. The Vast Waves sect and the Vast Seas sect have been divided for a long time. Now that the training world is about to change, it's time for the 2 sects to merge." What Laozu of the East Pole had said seemed to be accurate about Jinling's current situation. Tianqin Laozu did not respond for a moment. The 2 of them engaged in another round of battle, causing the entire seabed to shake violently. Lu Ping stayed in the valley and did not know if his movements had been discovered by the 2. He could only try his best to keep the aura around his body from leaking out, and he did not dare to use his divine will to observe the battle between the 2. Lu Ping naturally knew that the Xintian tree was a low-grade heaven-level wood attribute spirit object. It was probably only in an environment like the Fallen Archipelago, where poisonous creatures were everywhere, that such a strange heaven-level spirit object like the Xintian tree could be nurtured. Once the Vast Sea sect and Zonglang sect merged, the entire sect would have 3 mid-Dharma adepts and 4 early Dharma adepts. This level of strength was already close to that of the Xinling sect and ranked 3rd among all the sects in the North Sea. The 10 great sects would become 9 great sects, and they would clearly be divided into 3 groups. Jinling, Xianling, and the merged Zonglang sect would be in the first group. Shui Yin Pavilion and Hai Yin sect would be in the second group, but the 2 sects had always been on good terms, and once they joined forces, their strength would be stronger than any of the sects in the first group. The remaining 4 sects, Yujin sect, Chongming sect, Linggu sect, and Feiyu sect, which were already at the bottom of the 10 great sects, would be in the third group, and they would have to see the situation clearly and attach themselves to a few larger sections. Mei Tianqin, your level of practice and strength is far inferior to mine. If we were on the surface of the sea, perhaps you could use your alchemy grandmaster attainments to make up for the difference in our level of practice. But if we were at the bottom of the sea, even your alchemy grandmaster level would be greatly reduced. So how would you be a match for me? That Xintian tree will fall into my hands sooner or later, and I don't want to offend you, Jinling. As long as you give the Xintian tree to the old man will give you a high-grade earth-level spirit fire of heaven and earth. What do you think? East Pole Laozu seemed to feel that he had not said enough, so he continued, I know you have a disciple called Xian Hui, who is the wife of Jiang Tianlin's disciple. She has been stuck at the 6th layer of the core forging realm for many years. Jiang Tianlin and his wife are mean and ungrateful. So how would they search for spirit items for your disciple? If you have this spirit fire of heaven and earth, you can give it to your disciple. What do you think? This was sowing discord. Although Lu Ping could not see the expression on Tianqin Laozu's face, he heard Tianqin Laozu chuckle and say, Martial Uncle East Pole has a good plan. I wonder if Martial Uncle East Pole knows how many high-grade earth-level spirit fires I can exchange for this piece of Xintian tree in my hand if I bring it out of the fallen Great Archipelago? Then you have to have the ability to bring it out. East Pole Laozu did not speak anymore, but Lu Ping could guess that at this time, East Pole Laozu's face must be gloomy and scary because a fierce roar came from the sea again. Obviously, East Pole Laozu was also very angry, so the power of his attack was greatly increased. The battle between the 2 Dharma phase Laozu stirred up the whole seabed, and the aftermath of the battle reached the seabed, causing the whole ground to shake as if there was an earthquake. The valley where Lu Ping was hiding was also shaking, and countless bubbles appeared on the ground. Lu Ping's expression changed. He felt the ground shaking more and more violently, but the momentum of the battle between the two Dharma phase Laozu did not change. This was a real earthquake. It was most likely caused by the battle between the two of them. Rumble. The roar from the underground was getting closer and louder. Finally, even the two Laozu who were fighting in the sea had noticed the abnormality at the bottom of the sea, and they stopped and retreated at the same time. Lu Ping's expression was solemn. At this time, he could already judge that the center of the earthquake was at the foot of an underwater mountain in front of him, not too far away from Lu Ping. This was not an earthquake, but an underground volcano eruption. Lu Ping's expression also changed dramatically, and he no longer cared about hiding his body. He rushed out of the valley at the bottom of the sea and fled all the way to the distance. Neither Dongji Laozu nor Tianqin Laozu expected that there would be someone hiding under the ground. Both of them were shocked and had a lingering fear. This person obviously wanted to be a fisherman, but unfortunately, this person seemed to have some treasure on him that blocked the detection of divine sense. The sea at the bottom of the sea was extremely muddy because of the battle between the two sides, so the two could not see the appearance of the person who escaped. Immediately, the two also discovered that what was happening under the ground was not an earthquake, but a volcanic eruption at the bottom of the sea. No wonder the person just fled. The two could not help but retreat without saying anything. The bottom of the sea shook more and more violently, and a mass of scarlet magma suddenly spewed out from an underwater mountain. Countless mud and a large number of bubbles rushed straight to the surface of the sea. After the initial eruption of the magma, the bright red magma began to slowly pour down from the top of the mountain, and the seawater along the way seemed to be boiling. Suddenly, there was another violent shaking under the ground, and another wave of magma rushed out from the top of the mountain, accompanied by a large amount of mud and boiling seawater, spreading in all directions. At this moment, two scarlet flames like blood suddenly rushed out from the muddy seawater. One of the two flames was very agile. After flying out of the volcano, it seemed to immediately realize that the environment here was not suitable for its existence, so it immediately changed direction and rushed above the seawater. As long as it was out of the sea, it could continue to exist. The other flame seemed to be directly spat out from the magma by the huge force of the volcano eruption, and it went straight in a direction in the seawater without a trace of change. Obviously, this flame was not a heaven and earth spirit fire. It did not realize that if it did not leave the bottom of the sea, it would be annihilated in the seawater sooner or later. After all, how could water and fire be compatible? No matter how high the quality of this flame was, it could not compare to the quantity of seawater. Earth high-grade Fey, Earth blood flame. East Pole Laozu exclaimed, and his figure rushed toward the Earth blood flame. It was a pity that the location of the Earth blood flame was too far from him, and Lyra Laozu was one step ahead of him. East Pole Laozu put his hands together in the middle, and a large amount of seawater suddenly collapsed. With East Pole Laozu as the center, a vacuum without seawater was formed, and then the surrounding seawater rushed over and filled up. A dark green water ball appeared in East Pole Laozu's hand. As East Pole Laozu pushed the water ball in his hand, it suddenly disappeared in front of East Pole Laozu, and when it appeared again, it was not far from Lyra Laozu. At this moment, Lyra Laozu was about to suppress the earth blood flame, but he did not expect the dark green water ball to rush over. This was a great divine art that East Pole Laozu had practiced, and it had twice the effect with half the effort in the seawater. Helplessly, Lyra Laozu could only temporarily give up on suppressing the earth blood flame, and suddenly, a golden flame appeared in his hand. This golden flame was not weakened by the surrounding seawater. As Lyra Laozu waved his hand, the dark green water ball collided with the golden flame. A muffled sound that was exactly the same as the one that Lu Ping had heard the first time, but this time, it was far more powerful than the first time. Suddenly, the center of the collision between the water ball and the flame erupted in all directions. From the beginning to the end, the two Dharma powers Laozu did not pay attention to the red flame that flew straight into the depths of the sea. Earth Blood False Flame. A third-grade spiritual material formed from a high-grade Earth-level spirit, the Earth Blood Flame, after losing its spirituality. That was why it was called the Earth Blood False Flame. This Earth Blood False Flame was flying in the direction that Lu Ping had escaped from. From the two Dharma powers Lao Tzu's point of view, although the flame was considered valuable, it was flying in the direction of the cultivator who had been hiding in the underwater valley. It was likely that the cultivator had already kept it, and there was no need for the two of them to offend a Dharma adept for a flame that had lost its spirituality. Lu Ping did not go far. Although there were two Dharma powers Lao Tzu fighting here, one of them was Lao Tzu from his own sect, so there was no need for Lu Ping to escape. Chapter 543. Lu Ping naturally knew about the Earth Blood False Flame. Seeing Lyra Lao Tzu and East Pole Lao Tzu fighting again in the distance, he thought for a while and naturally understood what they were thinking. Lu Ping waved his hand to suppress the Earth Blood False Flame and put it away. Although this treasure was not comparable to a spiritual object of heaven and earth, it was still a rare third-class spiritual material. Generally speaking, a magic weapon made of this spiritual material had the potential to become a magic weapon at the level of spirit-nurturing magic weapon. Lu Ping watched the battle between Lyra Lao Tzu and East Pole Lao Tzu from afar. Obviously, these two people could not detect Lu Ping's strength through their divine thoughts. Lu Ping suddenly had a bold idea. He simply stopped hiding and walked straight towards the direction of the battle from the distant seabed. Noticing that Lu Ping was walking towards them, Lyra Lao Tzu and East Pole Lao Tzu did not know whether he was an enemy or a friend, so they stopped fighting and retreated at the same time, looking in the direction of Lu Ping. Seeing that the two people really stopped fighting, Lu Ping became more confident. A smile appeared at the corner of his mouth, and he flew straight to the two people. As the distance between Lu Ping and the two people narrowed, the muddy seawater could no longer hide Lu Ping's figure and appearance. Seeing that the person in the sea was actually Lu Ping, Lyra Lao Tzu could not help but show a trace of surprise and doubt on his face. However, Lyra Lao Tzu immediately thought of something. He did not speak, but his face was relaxed, and he even smiled at Lu Ping. Naturally, the expression on Patriarch Celestial Harp's face did not escape Patriarch Eastpole's notice. Patriarch Eastpole's face immediately darkened. Clearly, the two of them knew each other. Additionally, he was actually incapable of seeing through this seemingly young cultivator. Although there were quite a number of magic treasures capable of concealing one's cultivation base in the world of cultivation, could someone who could appear in the waters of the fallen archipelago be an ordinary cultivator? Mei Tianqin had been drifting in the East Sea for decades. As an alchemy grandmaster, it seemed that she had gotten to know many high-grade cultivators in the East Sea. Unexpectedly, she was able to meet people she was familiar with in the Fallen Islands. This person could have stayed away from the battle between the two sides and even hid on the sidelines to reap the benefits. But now, she came straight to the East Sea. Obviously, it was because of Mei Tianqin. Jinling's sect was really scheming. Although East Pole Lao Tzu was upset, he still looked calm on the surface and bowed. He said, "How should I address you, sir? Do you have any instructions for me?" Lu Ping looked at the mid-Dharma Lao Tzu in front of him, who could kill him with a wave of his hand. He forcibly suppressed the panic in his heart and looked in the direction of Lyra Lao Tzu. He also bowed slightly and said with a smile, "Greetings, sir. I was looking for some spiritual materials for alchemy here, but I happened to see you two fighting. Sorry to disturb you." Lu Ping also bowed slightly to East Pole Lao Tzu. East Pole Lao Tzu smiled dryly. "You don't have to be so polite, sir. You were originally gathering spiritual materials here, and it was us who disturbed you." Unexpectedly, Lu Ping's tone changed and he said, "But fellow Taoist Mei Tianqin is a good friend of mine. I wonder if fellow Taoist Mei can give me face and not make things difficult for her?" Although East Pole Lao Tzu had already expected this result, East Pole Lao Tzu's face still darkened after hearing Lu Ping's words. Lu Ping saw this and smiled faintly. "What's wrong? Fellow Taoist, are you unwilling to give me face?" East Pole Lao Tzu suddenly snorted coldly. Lyra Laozu's eyes immediately flashed with a trace of worry, but this worry only flashed for a moment. His hands hidden in his sleeves were already covered by a golden light. When Lu Ping heard East Pole Laozu's cold snort, he knew that something was wrong. But at this time, he was like an arrow on the bow. If anything went wrong, he would immediately be killed by East Pole Laozu. At this time, in order to not be suspected by East Pole Laozu, Lu Ping had already walked not far from the two. If East Pole Laozu really attacked, he was afraid that Lyra Laozu would not be able to save him in time. East Pole Laozu's cold snort was like a heavy hammer, smashing towards the divine sense in Lu Ping's mind. Lu Ping's face suddenly turned pale, but he immediately recovered. He looked at East Pole Laozu and sneered. "I will remember your generous gift." East Pole Laozu looked at Lu Ping with some doubt. At this time, Lyra Laozu had already come to Lu Ping's side. It was obvious that he was going to join forces with Lu Ping to fight with East Pole Laozu. East Pole Laozu glanced at the two with a gloomy face, then turned to the other direction of the seabed without saying a word. After East Pole Laozu left, Lu Ping and Lyra Laozu did not speak. The two were silent for a long time. Then Lyra Laozu said, "He has left." Lu Ping's indifferent expression suddenly disappeared. His face suddenly became paler than before. Blood oozed out of his mouth, nose, and ears. The golden shield around him also became flickering and was on the verge of collapse. Lyra Laozu saw that Lu Ping was almost unable to support the shield. She frowned and stretched out her slender hand. A fiery red chi overflowed from her fingertips and poured into Lu Ping's chi shield. Although Lu Ping's mouth and nose were bleeding because of East Pole Laozu's previous cold snort, his mind was extremely clear. Seeing that Lyra Laozu wanted to help him, he quickly said, "Martial uncle, wait." Although Lyra Laozu was puzzled, she still took back the overflowing chi in an instant. Her control of chi had really reached the point of perfection. When Lu Ping saw Lyra Laozu take back the chi, he finally breathed a sigh of relief. But at this time, there seemed to be 12 copper bells ringing in his mind. His whole body was incomparably sore and weak. He really did not have the strength to explain anything. On the contrary, Lyra Laozu carefully looked at the golden shield around Lu Ping's body. She said with some surprise, "Myriad Poison Meteorite Energy Shield. I should have thought of it. Without the protection of this shield, with your cultivation, it is impossible for you to go to the bottom of the sea." Lu Ping reached out and took out a jade bottle. He poured out an orange pill and swallowed it. After a moment, the paleness on his face receded a little. He reluctantly smiled at Lyra Laozu and said, "Martial uncle has good eyesight. It is indeed the Myriad Poison Meteorite Energy Shield." Lyra Laozu curled her lips and said, "Humph, that is the profound spirit pill. It is said that this is a kind of strange pill of the Central Plains Lu family to restore and nourish the mind. It is rarely circulated in the cultivation world. I did not expect you to be able to get your hands on the pill recipe." Lu Ping wanted to point out the relationship between the North Seas Liao clan and the Central Plains Lu clan. "Hence," he said, "this is a pellet recipe I exchanged from Liao clan's clan head, Liao Ruanjia. When I accompanied Martial Uncle Fornax to the North Seas Alchemist Conference." Lyra Laozu chuckled and said, "The Liao family is also related to the Central Plains?" "But that's right. The Liao family originally came from the Central Plains. It is normal that they have some inheritance from the Central Plains." Lu Ping watched as old ancestor Tian Qin took out a jade essence bottle and poured out a medicinal pellet that looked like a crystal bead. He handed it to Lu Ping and said, "This is a nascent soul pellet, much better than the soul accumulation pellet. Take it first, and your divine sense will recover by half. As for the rest, with your extraordinary divine sense, you'll be able to recover in half a month." Lu Ping reached out and took the nascent soul pellet. He saw that the medicinal pellet was stored in a jade essence bottle and knew it was a half-step core forging medicinal pellet. He hesitated and said, "Martial uncle, this medicinal pellet is very precious and I'm afraid it's very rare. Although my divine sense was severely damaged, it didn't damage my foundation. Even without the nascent soul pellet, I should be able to recover in at least 3 months to half a year." Lyra Laozu looked at Lu Ping with surprise. She didn't expect Lu Ping's mind to be so profound. Lu Ping was afraid that Lu Ping's mind had reached the peak of a core forging cultivator's mind. No wonder Lu Ping could block Laozu's mind attack. Lyra Laozu looked a little unhappy and said, I told you to take it, so take it. Why do you have so much nonsense? Why did he have to learn all of Lu Tianling's skills, and at the same time, learn Jiang Tianling's courteous skills as a hypocrite? I didn't give this pill to you for free. After you recover for a while, I need you to go somewhere with me. There's something I need you to do. Lu Ping heard this and didn't stand on ceremony. He swallowed the nascent soul pill and said, Since Martial Uncle has instructed me, Disciple will do his best. It's just that Disciple's level is too low. I don't want to ruin Martial Uncle's plans. Lyra Laozu chuckled and said, How is your level weak? Didn't you just scare off a mid-Dharma adept? Lu Ping's face changed and he asked hesitantly, Martial Uncle, you don't want Disciple too? Lyra Laozu glanced at Lu Ping and said, The stone armor you're wearing is not bad. I think it's because of this armor that Dongji couldn't see through you. Lu Ping laughed, tacitly agreeing with Lyra Laozu's guess. The nascent soul pill was indeed worthy of being a half-step Dharma adept's pill. It melted in his mouth and a cool feeling rose from his stomach to his brain. This made Lu Ping's messed-up divine will recover by half. Lu Ping was overjoyed. If this continued, he would be able to recover his divine will in less than 10 days. Lyra Laozu had been wandering the East Sea all these years. Although she had joined the boudoir of the current carefree sect, she must have had some fortuitous encounters and gains. This nascent soul pill was like that. At least, Lu Ping had never seen this kind of pill in the Jinling Elixir Pavilion. The Liao family's nascent soul pill focused more on the cultivation of divine will than on recovery. On a deserted island in the center of the perished archipelago, two groups of practitioners were facing each other. On one side were two mid-Dharma adepts and three other Dharma adepts. One of them was the middle-aged practitioner who had rushed to save Yuan Feixiang. Behind him were 7 or 8 late core forging adepts, one of whom was Yuan Feixiang. On the other side, under the leadership of 4 Dharma adepts, there were also a few late core forging adepts following behind them. The 2 Dharma adepts in the lead were also mid-Dharma adepts. Why isn't Mei Xianqin here yet? Could it be that she didn't receive Martial Uncle Yuhuan's message? She's no longer a member of our carefree sect. Why should she help us? Maybe she was delayed by something. Chapter 544. The whispers of a few female practitioners behind them made one of the voluptuous mid-Dharma adepts rather unhappy. At this moment, the female practitioner's face lit up and she looked in the direction beside her. The other mid-Dharma adept beside this female adept seemed to have sensed something as well, and she looked in the same direction. The 2 Dharma adepts opposite them had already noticed that someone was rushing over. However, when they saw the expressions on the faces of the practitioners from the Carefree sect and Tianyue sect, the 2 Yuan clan Laozu's faces could not help but turn a little ugly. A beam of light landed not far from the opposing practitioners. Tianqin Laozu and Lu Ping walked together in the direction of the Carefree sect. Tianqin Laozu walked in front of the voluptuous mid-Dharma adept, bowed and said, How has senior sister Yuhuan been? When the voluptuous female cultivator saw ancestor Sky Zither, she smiled. Thanks to junior sister, things have been going well these days. The establishment of the free and unfettered sect is just around the corner. When the time comes, junior sister must be there. Tianqin Laozu smiled. All these years, I have been taken care of by many sisters in the sect. Otherwise, I would not have advanced to the Dharma stage so quickly. When the time comes, I will be there personally to congratulate you. As Tianqin Laozu finished speaking, she pointed to Lu Ping beside her and said, After receiving senior sister Yuan's message, I rushed here as fast as I could. Unexpectedly, there were some accidents along the way. Fortunately, I met with my junior brother, Lu Tianping, who helped me out. I hope I am not too late. When Lu Ping heard Tianqin Laozu call her senior sister Yuan, he knew that this was the mid-Dharma adept of the Carefree sect, Xiao Yuhuan, whom Yuan Guang Laozu had called out at the Phantom City auction. He hurriedly stepped forward and bowed. Greetings, senior sister Xiao. Seeing that Lu Ping looked young, Xiao Yuhuan could not help but be surprised. She said to Tianqin Laozu, Sister Xianqin, reaching the Dharma stage in 400 years is already amazing. I did not expect you to have such a young Dharma junior brother. Your sect is indeed extraordinary. No wonder you insisted on not joining the boudoir and only became a guest of our sect. I think you have not practiced for 400 years, have you? Lu Ping smiled slightly and did not reply. His expression seemed to have tacitly agreed with Xiao Yuhuan and Lao Zu's conjecture. This caused the crowd to be unable to gauge Lu Ping's strength for a while. A mere 400-year Dharma adept is already so highly sought after overseas. The overseas training world is really disappointing. In the Central Plains training world, although no one thinks highly of the adepts who only focus on improving their level of practice, there are still many adepts who manage to advance to the Dharma stage within 200 years. When Lu Ping looked back, he saw that the person who had spoken was the middle-aged adept who had rushed to the Central Plains to rescue Yuan Feixiang. When Lu Ping had just arrived, he had seen Yuan Feixiang standing behind a few Dharma adepts. However, Lu Ping's face did not show the slightest change. When Lu Ping turned to look, Yuan Feixiang was also looking at Lu Ping with a burning gaze. Lu Ping smiled indifferently at Yuan Feixiang and turned back to stand behind Lyra Laozu. However, when Lu Ping turned around, the indifferent smile on his face had already disappeared. In its place was the same expression as Yuan Feixiang's. This was because Lu Ping could see the challenge in Yuan Feixiang's eyes. He could see the unwillingness to admit defeat. In fact, putting aside the fact that Lu Ping was currently acting as the Dharma adept Laozu Lu Tianping, the real person who should have this kind of gaze should be Lu Ping looking at Yuan Feixiang. When the middle-aged adept saw that Lu Ping was ignoring his words, he felt that his dignity had been violated. Hence, he said coldly, "What are you afraid?" Lu Ping stood behind Lyra Laozu. In the face of the middle-aged adept's provocation, he maintained an indifferent expression. It was as if he did not take the middle-aged adept's provocation to heart at all. Instead, his eyes were fixed on the ground in the middle of the confrontation between the two sides. In fact, when Lu Ping and Lyra Laozu walked towards the crowd just now, Lu Ping had already seen many inexplicable caves on the ground around them. There were also many blood stains and traces of fighting. Obviously, the place where everyone was standing should have been a dangerous place where poisonous beasts ran rampant. Later, several Dharma adepts from both sides broke in and killed all the hidden poisonous beasts. What made Lu Ping feel a little strange was that the corpses of the poisonous beasts had disappeared. Could it be that the cultivators of both sides had collected them? And in the middle of the confrontation between the two sides, there was a thick layer of poisonous fog. The poisonous fog here was much thicker and denser than that in the other parts of the fallen islands. At this time, the poisonous fog from all directions was continuously gathering in the middle of the open space. The momentum was even greater than when Lu Ping had absorbed the myriad poison liquid to nourish the myriad wonder jade nectar. Of course, this was also because Lu Ping had been changing the location of absorbing the myriad poison liquid out of caution. Otherwise, the momentum of the poisonous fog that he had caused might not be much less than now. As for the poisonous fog that Lu Ping and Dwarf Miner Repairs found in the poison swamp, the gathering of the Yuan Qing liquid and the hidden Qiangang golden liquid caused by the gathering of the poisonous fog could not be compared to this. The gathering of the poisonous fog eventually formed 5 vortexes in the open space, which meant that there might be 5 treasures that were eventually formed and unearthed. Lu Ping's indifferent attitude did not mean that the practitioners on the side of the carefree sect would allow the other side to provoke them so unscrupulously. The middle Dharma stage female practitioner next to Xiao Yuhuan Laozu of the carefree sect frowned and said to a middle Dharma stage elder on the other side, "Friend Yuan Luo, the Yuan family is the #1 family in the Central Plains. I have heard that the disciples of the Yuan family have always been gentle and elegant, kind and polite. How could this friend Yuan Feng be so arrogant and domineering? Could it be that what you hear is false and what you see is true?" The middle Dharma stage elder, Yuan Luo, smiled and said, "This nephew of mine is different from the rest of the family. He has an impatient temper and likes to challenge the strong everywhere he goes. Friend Wang Yue has to laugh at him. It's just that this time, the Heavenly Moon sect and the Carefree sect have come together, which has exceeded my expectations. However, I don't know which sect or sect these two fellows are from." Xiao Yuhuan glanced at Tianqin Laozu, who was next to her, and seemed to understand something. She changed the topic and said with a smile, "Friend Yuan, let's first talk about the distribution of the treasures that have been unearthed." The expression of the other middle Dharma stage, adept beside Yuan Luo, suddenly changed. He said, "We have already finished our discussion earlier. Out of these 5 treasures, the Yuan clan will have 3. Why? Are the Carefree sect and the Tianyue sect going back on their word?" Wang Yuelaozu of the Tianyue sect said calmly, "Previously, your Yuan clan was powerful, and the Carefree sect and the Tianyue sect were not your opponents even if we joined forces. Naturally, your Yuan clan got the biggest share. Now that we have Sister Xianqin and her junior brother joining us, we have one more Dharma adept. Naturally, the distribution method has to be changed. Could it be that friend Yuan Gu really wants to fight with the practitioners of our 3 sects for these few spiritual items?" Yuan Gu was furious. He took a step forward and was about to make a move, but he was stopped by Yuan Luo, who was beside him. Yuan Luo looked deeply at Xiao Yuhuan and Wang Yue's sect and said, "Okay, we will do as you say." Yuan Gu panicked and said, "Fourth brother, looking at the momentum of this poisonous fog, the treasures underground are at least mid-earth level and above." When the disciples of the Yuan clan heard this, they all showed anger on their faces. The atmosphere between the two sides suddenly became tense. "Okay, don't say any more. This time, when we came to the East Sea, Big Brother said very clearly that I will be in charge of everything. Did you not hear him?" Yuan Gu snorted angrily, but did not say anything else. Yuan Luo turned around and said with a smile, "I have made a fool of myself. Since that is the case, how do the two of you intend to divide the treasures?" Xiao Yuhuan and Wang Yue's sect glanced at each other, and then Xiao Yuhuan said, "Thank you, fellow Taoist Yuan Luo. In this way, we only need to reverse the distribution plan. We will choose 3 treasures, and your clan will choose 1. What does fellow Taoist think?" Yuan Gu snorted angrily again, but still did not say anything. Yuan Luo did not care. She thought for a moment and said, "All right." At this time, Lu Ping seemed to be indifferent. He looked around and seemed to be suddenly interested in the surrounding environment of this island. Lu Ping's maverick behavior did not arouse the interest of the surrounding cultivators. Only Yuan Luo had been paying attention to Lu Ping, but after a long time, her eyes also flashed with some doubts. Finally, she put her attention on the 5 treasures that were about to be unearthed in the center of the open space. At this time, the final formation of the treasures seemed to have reached the most critical moment. The momentum of the poisonous fog could almost be described as a storm. Even Lu Ping's attention couldn't help but be drawn back at this time. The 5 thick poisonous fog tornadoes were like 5 giant pillars that reached the sky, as if they were going to pierce through the world shrouded in poisonous fog. Such a vast momentum spread far and wide, and naturally, it was impossible not to attract the attention of other cultivators outside the island. The 4 Dharma laws Laozu frowned from time to time and looked in all directions. Some of the cultivators who came to spy on them were unscrupulous, and even Lu Ping had already discovered where they were hiding. Xiao Yuhuan, Yuan Luo, and the others looked at each other, and almost at the same time, the aura around their bodies exploded. The cultivation of the 4 mid-Dharma laws Laozu immediately scared off many of the surrounding cultivators who were spying on them. Next, the 3 early Dharma laws adepts from the Yuan clan also released their aura. The 2 early Dharma laws adepts from the Xiaoyao sect and Tianyue sect, as well as Tianqin Laozu, were not to be outdone. After releasing their aura, they shocked the surrounding cultivators, and at the same time, they competed with the Yuan clan cultivators, as if they wanted to win in terms of aura. The formation of the 10 Dharma laws Laozu immediately caused some of the cultivators who thought that they had some ability to spy on them to immediately retreat, one by one giving up on the idea of fishing in troubled waters. Other than Lu Ping, the Dharma laws adepts present all released their aura. Naturally, Lu Ping became the focus of everyone's attention. However, Lu Ping still had a calm expression on his face, as if he didn't care about the attention of the crowd. He looked very much like a spoiled brat from some sections. Tianqin Laozu glanced at Lu Ping, then smiled bitterly at Xiao Yuhuan and the others, saying, "This junior brother of mine has been spoiled rotten by the elders in the sect. Even I can't do anything about him. Sisters, please don't blame him." Chapter 545. Not counting Lu Ping, the fake Dharma phase cultivator, the formation of 10 Dharma phase Laozu cultivators was enough to scare away all the cultivators spying on them. At this moment, the thick poisonous fog that had gathered in the central area suddenly began to dissipate, and the hidden treasure underground finally took shape. Yuan Luo said something to a late core forging cultivator behind her. Xiao Yuhuan turned to Munjai Laozu of the Heavenly Moon sect and said with a smile, "Our overseas cultivators rarely practice earth attribute spells. I wonder if any of senior sister Munjai's disciples practice earth attribute spells?" Munjai Laozu looked behind him and saw an ordinary-looking but tall woman walk out from behind him. Munjai Laozu gave the woman a few instructions. The woman raised her head and looked at the late core forging cultivator who walked out from the Yuan clan. Then, with an expressionless face, she and the cultivator called out by Yuan Luo stood at the forefront of the central area. The cultivator from the Yuan clan let out a loud roar as both of his hands slammed onto the ground beneath his feet. Meanwhile, the female cultivator from the Heavenly Moon sect lifted her right leg up and then dropped it down. The two of them seemed to have used their spells at the same time. The entire ground suddenly trembled under the joint attack of the two, as if there was an earthquake. Fortunately, both of their spells were directed towards the central open space. After their quintessential chi and magic power converged underground, they intertwined with each other. This way, they could monitor each other's quintessential chi and the operation of their spells, making it impossible for them to hide from each other. The soil in the central area suddenly began to tumble. The things hidden underground followed the tumbling of the soil and came out one by one. However, to everyone's surprise, there were not only 5 treasures that came out of the ground, but a large pile. Everyone present was an accomplished cultivator, so they naturally saw the rather valuable items in the pile of items. Lu Ping naturally searched for treasures among these things. However, many of the cultivators present had higher cultivation and knowledge than him. Although Lu Ping didn't know if the treasures he wanted would fall into his hands, it was good to increase his knowledge. There were 6 spiritual items, 4 wondrous items, 4 mutated spiritual materials, and 3 other items. There were a total of 17 items, causing all the cultivators present to be shocked. They did not expect that there would be so many treasures hidden in this open space, which was only 200 to 300 zhang in length and width. Looking at the 3 low-grade heaven-rank spirit items among the 6 spirit items, the cultivators on both sides didn't speak for a long time. It was as if the agreement between the two sides was about to expire at this moment. In an instant, the two sides began to fight, and all the cultivators' hearts were filled with greed. At this time, Xiao Yuhuan Laozu suddenly chuckled and said, "Since the things underground are here, we can start to distribute them. I think Yuan clan will abide by their promise." At this time, Yuan Luo glanced at Xiao Yuhuan and said in a deep voice, "Fellow Taoist Xiao, don't worry. I, Yuan Luo, will not ruin the reputation of Yuan clan that has been accumulated for tens of thousands of years for a few spirit items." Xiao Yuhuan smiled and said, Yuhuan naturally believes in the name of Yuan clan. Although she sounded like she did not care, a hint of relief flashed through her eyes. Although the Yuan family was only equivalent to a large martial institution in the world of cultivation, as long as they had some status in the world of cultivation, they would be able to stand on equal footing with those large martial institutions. If the Yuan family really turned against them, even if the Carefree School could gain the upper hand for now, they would still be suppressed by the Yuan family in the future. The 3 low-grade heaven-rank spirit items were the wind-attributed flowing wind feather, the water-attributed liquid ink, and the earth-attributed black inkstone. Xiao Yuhuan pondered for a moment, then directly ordered the tall female cultivator, who had previously used her magical power to dig out all the spirit items underground with the other cultivator from Yuan clan. "Martial Niece Dianxing, you go pick one first." The tall female cultivator, spiritual master Dianxing, was stunned when she heard this. She looked at moongazer Laozu of Heavenly Moon Sect. She was originally a disciple of Heavenly Moon Sect, and as usual, she should be the first choice of Carefree faction. However, Xiao Yuhuan Laozu gave this opportunity to her, which meant that the right to choose the spirit item was given to Heavenly Moon Sect. Moongazer Laozu smiled and said to Xiao Yuhuan Laozu, who was next to him, "This is a favor from junior sister." Xiao Yuhuan smiled and said, "This time, senior sister Moongazer has already helped my Carefree faction greatly by coming overseas. How can this heaven-rank spirit item be enough to repay you?" Moongazer Laozu giggled and said, "In that case, I won't be polite." Seeing Moongazer Laozu nod, the tall female cultivator was immediately overjoyed. She directly stepped forward and picked up the earth-attributed black inkstone. This female disciple was also a late core forging cultivator. When the 3 heaven-ranked spirit items were unearthed, her gaze had already been fixed on this black inkstone. Similarly, the late core forging cultivator from the Yuan clan, who also cultivated an earth-attributed cultivation method, was also paying attention to this black inkstone. He was not a direct descendant of the Yuan clan, so when he saw that the black inkstone had been picked by spiritual master Dianxing, an expression of regret appeared on his face. The disciples of the Carefree faction and Heavenly Moon Sect behind spiritual master Dianxing all revealed envious gazes, especially the disciples of the Carefree faction. In the overseas cultivation world, earth-attributed spirit items rarely appeared. Thus, earth-attributed spirit items were generally second only to spiritual fires of the same rank in the overseas cultivation world. Of course, there were some special spirit items, such as the primordial heavy water that Lu Ping had smelted. In addition to containing the spirituality of a heaven-rank spirit item, the primordial heavy water could also increase the density of a cultivator's true essence to an unimaginable level. In reality, the spirituality of the primordial heavy water itself was not much different from that of an ordinary heaven-rank spirit item. It was only because after smelting the primordial heavy water, a cultivator's cultivation realm would be slowed down to an appalling level. Thus, it was classified as a low-grade heaven-rank spirit item by the cultivation world. Unless the cultivator who smelted the primordial heavy water was like Lu Ping, who was already a powerful alchemy grandmaster, had a continuous supply of good cultivation pills to support his cultivation, and was able to survive a few life-threatening encounters, then the primordial heavy water's effect on one's cultivation could be minimized. The second item was chosen by the Yuan clan. The black jade liquid was actually a water-attributed spirit item that contained a highly toxic poison. It was also a relatively special heaven and earth treasure. However, the poison attached to this spirit item was even more annoying than the primordial heavy water, which slowed down a cultivator's cultivation speed. A late-stage core forging realm cultivator from the Yuan clan also came out, took the black jade liquid in his hand, and immediately retreated. There was only one flowing wind feather left, which was also a low-grade heaven-rank spirit item. Naturally, the Carefree faction would not let it go. A female cultivator wearing a light muslin, under Xiao Yuhuan's command, put away the flowing wind feather. The fourth item was chosen by the Yuan clan. At this time, there were still 3 heaven and earth spirit items on the ground. 2 were high-grade earth spirit items, and 1 was low-grade earth spirit item. The low-grade earth spirit item was naturally ignored by the cultivators of the Yuan clan. Of the 2 high-grade earth spirit items, 1 was a heaven and earth spirit fire, and the other was a wind-attributed spirit item. Yuan Luo didn't even think about it, and put away the heaven and earth spirit fire. The most important reason why the value of a heaven and earth spirit fire was far higher than other spirit items of the same grade was that every heaven and earth spirit fire was the favorite of an alchemist and a tool refiner. And the important role and lofty status of an alchemist and a tool refiner in the cultivation world determined that the value of a heaven and earth spirit fire, which was sought after by them, would inevitably be much higher than other spirit items. A high-grade earth spirit fire was a treasure in the hands of an alchemy grandmaster that could increase the success rate of alchemy. If Lu Ping wanted to become an alchemy grandmaster, then the mid-grade earth spirit fire in his hands, the eastern purple chi flame, would more or less not be of much help. Therefore, when this heaven and earth spirit fire was chosen by the Yuan clan, Lu Ping's eyes twitched. Previously, although Lyra Laozu, under the influence of Lu Ping, had managed to keep the high-grade earth spirit fire from Laozu of the East Pole, Lyra Laozu had also asked him if he needed this heaven and earth spirit fire. Unfortunately, the heaven and earth spirit fire was fierce. Although it was good for tool refiner, it was not as good as the Eastern Purple Chi Flame for alchemy. Moreover, Lu Ping could see that Lyra Laozu seemed to be quite reluctant to part with this heaven and earth spirit fire. Taoist Xian Hui was her eldest disciple. Although he did not inherit her alchemy skills, he cultivated the same cultivation method as her. This heaven and earth spirit fire was just right for Taoist Xian Hui, so naturally, Lu Ping kindly declined. When it was Carefree School's turn to choose the fifth item, Xiao Yuhuan Laozu turned to Lyra Laozu and said with a smile, "Sister Xianqin, the good things have been taken away by us. Sister, you can choose the fifth item." Lyra Laozu did not mind. She directly put away the high-grade earth spirit fire of wind attribute. In the eyes of these big sects, Zhenling's strength was nothing. If it were not for Lu Ping, the fake Laozu, increasing Lyra Laozu's weight at this time, perhaps Zhenling would at most be thanked by Carefree School in other ways. He would not be qualified to participate in the final distribution of the items. This was the role of strength. One round of 5 items, a total of 4 forces, one after another. Xiao Yuhuan continued to smile at Lyra Laozu and said, "Sister Xianqin, this time, you go first." Lyra Laozu declined and said, "Senior Sister Yuhuan, how can I do that? This junior sister came the latest and did not make any effort at all." Xiao Yuhuan still smiled and said, "Young sister, don't be so polite. If you hadn't arrived in time, the order of distribution would have been reversed. Previously, young sister only got a high-grade earth-grade Fey, and it already made big sister feel bad. If young sister doesn't choose first this time, then it would be looking down on big sister." Lu Ping heard this and pursed his lips. The most precious 3 heaven spirit fire and 2 high-grade earth spirit fire already had their respective owners. Although the remaining things were also treasures, even Lu Ping did not care about them, let alone these cultivators from the big sections. Well, that's not right. In fact, there is one thing that looks quite interesting. Lu Ping's eyes flickered with blue light. He looked thoughtfully at a blood-red stone in the distance. Chapter 546. Tianqin Laozu saw that she couldn't refuse, so she prepared to go forward and put away the low-level earth tier spirit item. However, just as Tianqin Laozu was about to step forward, she heard Lu Ping's voice. Tianqin Laozu was startled and looked at a blood-red stone on the ground. Although this stone looked like a pretty good spirit material, it was only a second-tier spirit material at best. Compared to the few rare spirit materials on the ground, this stone looked very ordinary. Tianqin Laozu knew that Lu Ping wouldn't speak without thinking. Her eyes also flashed with a light. It was obviously a type of eye technique, but in the end, her face showed disappointment. It was obvious that she didn't gain anything. In the eyes of a cultivator like Tianqin Laozu, the difference between a spirit material and a spirit material didn't matter. Although Tianqin Laozu didn't understand, she still put away the blood-red stone in front of everyone's surprised eyes. "Sister Xianqin, why did you choose this item? It's only a spirit material. Could it be that this item has some use that others don't know?" Xiao Yuhuan Laozu looked at Tianqin Laozu with a surprised expression. Tianqin Laozu helplessly pointed at Lu Ping and said, "There's no other way. My junior wants this item, so I can only fulfill his wish." Lu Ping took the blood stone from Tianqin Laozu and quietly played with it in his hand. Then, he put it into his storage ring. Moongazer Laozu of the Heavenly Moon sect looked at the bloodstone in Lu Ping's hand and asked thoughtfully, "I wonder if Lu Daoyu can answer the doubts in my heart?" Lu Ping had a questioning expression and said, "Among these items, this is the only one I haven't seen before. If it's a spirit material, wouldn't I have profited? Is there any doubt?" Lu Ping's words caused Moongazer Laozu to be stunned. Finally, he looked at the helpless Tianqin Laozu and seemed to understand something, so he didn't ask anymore. The rest of the low-grade Earth-class spirit items and the 3 special items were divided up by the Yuan clan, the Carefree School, and the Heavenly Moon sect. After that, the Sky Qin ancestor picked the remaining 2 items, but they were just some spirit materials. The Yuan clan quickly said their goodbyes. The Carefree sect and the Heavenly Moon sect seemed to be together. Xiao Yuhuan turned to Tian Qin Laozu and asked, Sister Xianqin, can you explore a few areas with us to find some treasures? If Sister Xianqin and Junior Tianping join us, we will have a higher chance of breaking through some of the more dangerous areas. Tian Qin Laozu didn't dare to agree. Lu Ping was just a fake. Previously, he didn't work hard, which was already suspicious. If he stayed with the cultivators of the Carefree sect and the Heavenly Moon sect, Lu Ping was afraid that he would soon be exposed. So, he replied with a smile, my junior brother also found a few islands that are suspected to have hidden treasures. Now he wants to go and have a look. I'm really sorry. In the future, Xianqin will definitely come to the Carefree sect to visit you sisters. Lu Ping was really helpless with Tian Qin Laozu's way of pushing all the blame onto him. However, she was an elder, so Lu Ping could only accept it. He also had to pretend that this was how it should be. In the eyes of others, he was as hateful as he could be. Xiao Yuhuan glanced at Lu Ping and said, since it's like this, Sister Xianqin must be careful on the way. The Fallen Archipelago has already been open for more than 2 months. I'm afraid that in a few days, the density of the poisonous fog will rise again. These few days will be the most dangerous time. Xiao Yuhuan paused, then said, 3 months later, the treasured ship of the Carefree sect to the Heavenly Moon sect will set off. If Sister Xianqin has time, why don't you go to the Carefree Palace and send the treasured ship away together? Tian Qin Laozu looked at the Moongazer Laozu of the Heavenly Moon sect and asked with some surprise, treasured ship? Could it be that the sect has already built the treasured ship so quickly? There are countless dangers in the Broken Ocean, as well as the blockade of the Demon Clan and the harassment of murderers on the way. Without a good treasured ship, it is impossible to reach the Middle Earth. Xiao Yuhuan let out a long sigh and said, time waits for no man. I presume you're aware of the current situation in the cultivation world. Fortunately, my sect once discovered a damaged treasured ship during an expedition. Even though it was severely damaged, the main body of the treasured ship was still intact. When the time comes, Senior Sister Yuchan will personally escort it. I presume it won't be too dangerous to arrive at the Middle Earth. After hearing this, Tian Qin Laozu also understood and said with a smile, if Big Sister Yuchan personally goes, it will naturally be foolproof. I will definitely go to see you off. Tian Qin Laozu took Lu Ping all the way out of the island. The two avoided some large islands and specifically looked for some remote islands to stay. Tian Qin Laozu looked back at Lu Ping and said, tell me, why did you choose that blood-red stone? You should know that for this stone, your martial uncle, I, gave up a low-grade earth-rank spirit object. For our sect, this means that we will have one less mid-core forging realm cultivator who can condense a high-grade gold core in the future. In fact, Lu Ping was still brooding over the low-grade earth-grade spirit item because it was a wood elemental spirit item. It was perfect for Hu Lily to refine to advance to the mid-core forging realm. Although Hu Lily's current cultivation base was still far from being able to refine a low-grade earth-grade spirit item, with Lu Ping's minor forging spirit pellet and the improved version of the minor forging spirit pellet, these problems were no longer a problem. Hearing Tian Qin Laozu's question, Lu Ping scratched his head and said, in fact, Disciple also doesn't know what this blood-red stone is. I just feel that this stone is of great use to Disciple, so I earnestly asked Martial Uncle to take this stone in advance, so as to prevent others from obtaining it. Is that the reason? Lu Ping said in a deadpan manner. That's the reason. Tian Qin Laozu rolled his eyes and said, it would be strange if I believed you. Lu Ping also knew that this explanation couldn't be hidden, so he could only laugh foolishly. Fortunately, Tian Qin Laozu didn't seem to be entangled in this matter. Instead, his eyes looked around, causing Lu Ping's heart to jump. He knew that something bad was about to happen. Sure enough, Tian Qin Laozu giggled and said, since it is because of you, our sect lost an opportunity to obtain a low-grade earth-rank spirit object, then this loss will be recorded on you. In the future, when you return to the sect, you only need to hand over a treasure similar to the low-grade Earth-rank spirit object. Lu Ping helplessly smiled and said, "Disciple obeys." When Tianqin Laozu saw that Lu Ping agreed so reluctantly, he couldn't help but be a little dissatisfied and said, "You will still be short of this treasure. Don't think that I, your martial uncle, don't know your name in our sect, treasure boy, when I was in the East Sea. You bid 1,500 high-grade spirit stones at the Fantasy Spirit City's auction. In addition to other elixirs and treasures, you alone won 2.5 treasures. This kind of extravagance is comparable to ordinary Fa Xiang Laozu. How many treasures did our sect get in total this time? With your wealth, who can you hide it from?" Tianqin Laozu paused, seeming to feel that he didn't say it clearly, so he continued, "Since ancient times, there is no need to worry about scarcity, but about inequality. You are a disciple of the same sect. Why is your net worth at an unimaginable level, while your senior sisters and senior brothers are still haggling over 100 or 200 high-grade spirit stones? Although you may have exchanged these things with your life, will others think so?" Lu Ping's heart was heavy after hearing Tianqin Laozu's words, and he didn't know how to respond. Tianqin Laozu seemed to feel that he had said enough. Seeing Lu Ping like this, he said, "You don't have to worry about this, of course. No one will touch you now. After all, you are the most outstanding third-generation disciple of the sect, and Lu Tianling is also very notorious in the North Sea for being protective of his children. But once your cultivation stagnates one day, or if someone more amazing than you appears in the sect, or if you keep revealing your net worth like this, there will be people who will constantly come out to plot against you. Therefore, the most important thing is still your own strength. If you have the cultivation of the Dharma stage now, or if you continue to cultivate at such a rapid speed without damaging your foundation, the sect will continue to protect you." Lu Ping nodded unconsciously. Tianqin Laozu was pleased to see this, so he said a few more words. "Now that our sect is in a period of rising, and there are a few Dharma Laozu suppressing us, all the practitioners in the sect are working together, so there is a lot less internal strife. But this does not mean that there is no internal strife. Lu Tianling has always been strong in the sect, and now that she has become a deacon with real power, which is equivalent to the head of the sect, and also has that hypocrite Jiang Tianlin to give her advice, I am afraid that she will be even more complacent, and who knows how many more people she will offend. If Lu Tianling dies in the future, if there is no successor in the Chonghua sect, it will definitely be suppressed. Although your second senior sister is a hard worker, at most she can barely reach the early Dharma phase. With this level of cultivation, she will not be able to withstand the internal suppression of the sect in the future." Although Lu Ping felt that there was indeed a force in the sect that seemed to be against him, or against the teacher behind him, and he also thought that someone was trying to suppress the Chonghua sect, he did not expect that the crisis that the Chonghua sect might face in the future would be so serious. However, what was even more strange in Lu Ping's heart was that if there was anyone in the sect who did not get along with his teacher, it would probably be this person in front of him. Although this person's return to the sect had greatly increased the strength of Jinling, wasn't it also an eyesore for his teacher who was about to take charge of the sect? As the most outstanding existence among the second-generation disciples of Jinling, the grievances between the two back then were known to many of the third-generation disciples who had been practicing for a long time. Naturally, Tianqin Laozu was the best tool to check and balance the teacher Lu Tianling. Lu Ping vaguely felt that Tianqin Laozu's words today seemed to be specially said to him, as if she was explaining something to him. Lu Ping vaguely had a rough idea in his heart, but in his heart, it was just a guess. You're tuning in to the Warrior Lore YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.